let's start the poly market bets for malware.
The 4
You
hours
know?
episode.
This might actually turn out to be the 4 hours episode. Hello, everyone. This is episode 83 of the Three Body Problem. Somehow, some way, we've made it to 83 of these things. We have a busy, packed show set up for you this morning. Led off, obviously, and I don't want to waste any time at all. Led off, obviously, by a report from the Polish CERT on this Russian wiper attack against the energy grid, renewable energy grid in Poland. This came up on our podcast last week. We got a lot to decipher because a lot has changed between last week and this week. But I want to start with a point Juan made right at the very top last week when this broke, which you said, wait a second, this cross is not a barrier. This is actual wiper attack against a NATO country. This is not Ukraine, who's not in NATO. That significantly shifts things. Now that the Poles have come out and expressly identify the Russians, the FSB unit, and we'll get to the attribution in a little bit. Juan, do you want to expand a little bit on what you think this really means? Like, put this into context for us at the macro level.
So it's really interesting to see it called out. And even though I said, last time, I'm like, okay, so Poland is fair game. It's not like we hadn't seen some indications that there had been attacks and there were things heading towards Poland, right? Like we got that discussion of Prestige ransomware earlier on. And at the time, there were discussions basically along the lines of what I said of like, oh my God, so I guess Poland's fair game? Like we're not going to do anything about this? And folks responded with the kind of hedging that we get when you go, well, but it's just ransomware, right? Like it's just like, it's not quite the same. Okay, well, here's the wiper-based attack against critical infrastructure and trying to take out the power in the middle of winter for civilian populations, presumably. So what's the deal, right? Like, and I just put that forth in that way because it's not like I want a specific outcome. I just think we're having a very variable conversation where on any given day, depending on what kind of commentary we feel up to, we'll say that something is like a horrendous red line that is inconceivable. And then when it does happen, we'll just kind of talk about it as if it's like a foregone conclusion. Well, of course they're doing that. They have been doing that. And you go, okay. And to the extent that, I don't really give a fuck about people's perceptions and reactions as much as I would love to take whatever that is into account when we start to have conversations about cyber as being escalatory and how concerned we should be about countries responding and how concerned we should be about, all this like inauthentic bullshit around hack back, right? Like the sands just keep shifting. So I'd love for us to at least converge on a given understanding of the nature of cyber ops and what exactly we should and shouldn't react to and what exactly we should and shouldn't be concerned with, because those underpinnings are what's missing whenever we have the conversation about cyber privateering, around letters of marque, around, even people taking matters into their own hands, right? The lines just, it's just annoying. I'm just annoyed. This is an episode where I'm going largely to be annoyed at a lot of things.
Costin, this is an astonishing report in my mind. It's very, very well written by the Polish CERT. It just kind of outlines what was targeted, how the things work, what was actually done, how they were caught, the weak spots, and there's a lot to get to. I know you'll help us parse through the technical details here. But just at a high level, does this cross a certain threshold in your mind, this specific attack, because it's Poland, because it's a NATO country? And what do you make of the Poles expressly making it clear that this is not sandworm, which I want in there, I want you to jump into a little bit of the attribution confusion that we're dealing with.
Well, I think This is for sure one of these crossing the Rubicon moments because, in essence, it's a terrorist attack. I see it as a terrorist attack against the NATO country. And for many, many years, we've been more on the side of things that we don't do that. Like, these are the kind of things that other nations do it, but we are better. We are the good guys. And in my mind, this works as long as the other guys don't do this at scale. The moment that they start doing it at scale and show absolutely no restraint, I think that's the Rubicon moment. And this is, in my opinion, the moment when you need to answer in the same manner. Like the moment that, and again, there's no reason to doubt the attribution here. I'm confident that the Polish CERT and their umbrella organization, the NASK, NASK, are super solid on the attribution side of things. I think that the moment this happens, it is probably the time to start using the same methodology and to start using the same strategies to target whoever is attacking your country. You can't stay on the defense any longer. Like, that moment has passed. I understand the good guys argument, and I think it was valuable for many, many years, but unfortunately we've moved past the moment when we can say we're the good guys. We don't do that. Simply because you can't be entirely on the defense. It's probably very good in this case that nothing bad happened, that people didn't suddenly find themselves without electricity in the winter, that people didn't die, that serious accident haven't happened. And I think that's a good thing, which means that somehow the attack didn't achieve its purpose, which I believe is a very important observation here. The attack has failed. But nevertheless, these kind of attacks, I think, when executed at the right time, can have the potential to heavily disrupt your country and to heavily affect people's life. Again, this is not against a military target. This is not against the government. This is against
Civilians.
normal people, civilians. And when you have another nation doing this to you, I mean, yeah, this, you can't stay on the defense anymore. I think that's the most important part here.
Two small things I want to flag alongside this are news stories and public utterances from the UK. Who was it? I just remember the name here. I put it in our list of things here. The UK spy agency warning that, listen, we're going to be a lot more aggressive in these kinds of things when we see this surge in attacks coming against us. And the Germans as well publicly signaled this week that we're seeing a wave of nation-state attacks hitting some places that we don't like, and we will be aggressive going against foreign targets as well. So it seems like things are bubbling, things are percolating a little bit. Talk to me about why the attribution is important, and I'll frame the question this way. We learned about this through ESET.
Mm-hmm.
And in fairness to ESET, with medium confidence, they said they attributed this to sandworm. They weren't outright saying it. Medium confidence probably means they're hedging in some way. The polls came out and say, hey, listen, this is definitely not sandworm. This is a unique actor that we know of, Berserk Bear, that we know is part of an FSB unit that has been doing pre-positioning for years. And we've kind of documented some pre-positioning things. It seems like a different unit, different from sandworm, has been activated to do destructive things. And whether things happen bad or not, the wiper was activated, the destructive malware was activated. There were some lovely checks, EDR checks and so on, that spotted some things. Within that context, Costin, why is it important that we know whether this is sandworm, Berserk Bear, and why is the attribution important?
So first of all, the most important thing here is attribution, because if you want to retaliate, then you need to know who did it. So you need to know whom to retaliate against. Otherwise,
even down to an agency within a specific country.
No, that is a second part. So the most important is just to get the country right. If you get the country right and you associate it with a nation state, I think that's very important. And it's different from, let's say, a cyber criminal group doing this for fun, money, or ransom. The moment that you attribute that specifically, exactly, precisely to a country, and then, let's say, to some agency, that is the most important part of the whole story, because it allows you to blame someone and to, in the new world order, if you want, like in the multipolar world order, then suddenly retaliation is on the table. Back in the old days, we were the good guys, we don't do that. In the new reality, everything is on the table. And then why is the attribution important to a specific agency? I think what is important here is that everyone has a unified message and response. The moment that someone says, I think it's this thingy, and someone comes and says, no, I think it's the other thingy, this is shaking. This produces a kind of a feeling, an impression that the attribution is not solid. If these guys can't agree between themselves, then maybe they're wrong about other things as well, correct? So this kind of subminates, subverts the confidence and the trust. In my mind, it's even more important at this time that governmental agencies in other countries come out and they publish their own reports, analysis, attribution, very important to specific agency or whatever, supporting one or other of these conclusions. I think it's extremely important. Also, if one of the big companies like Google, Mandiant, Microsoft, Sentinel-1 even, Trend Micro, and so on, they also publish their own investigations confirming or infirming one theory and let's say reinforcing one direction, I think that consolidates the whole picture. So it's important that everyone is on the same page and points in the same specific direction, without somehow creating the impression that we don't really know who did it. I think that's a risk in this story.
Juanito, why is there confusion around whether this is Sandworm or Berserk Bear? And can you set up who those groups are, if you know, within the structure of the Russian state?
I mean, I can't really, right? And I think that's part of the confusion, right? Like there is to Costin's point, there is a sense that we're dealing with the Russians, period. And part of the problem here is like I don't know what drives ESET's attribution in particular. I wouldn't really hold folks to the fire on determining very specific attribution, except that folks insist on attributing, right? Like one of the things that I would, if I were writing some of these reports, for me, I'm not saying that attribution is not necessary. I'm saying that attribution is important. And therefore, if you're unclear, you should not lean into muddying the waters, right? Like we've seen situations before, Olympic destroyer, Pyeongchang Olympics, so many different situations in which like clearly there was a certain amount of disinformation and an attempt to mislead researchers to make claims that would then be used for political, maneuvers and diplomatic overtures. So there is a desire to do that. Does that mean I think this is a false flag attack? No, not at all. I think, there's so much in this that A, reeks of the same TTPs, B, is serious enough and coordinated and sort of large scale enough and so on that I just don't, my gut instinct is that it's not. The bigger issue that you have is that Sandworm is an old construct. It made a lot of sense 10 years ago when we had a good understanding of Sandworm as a unit, of their toolkit, of sort of a more cohesive way of operating, and we could make very clear statements about like, this is Sandworm, this is what they do, this is what they use, these are the TTPs, this is their infrastructure, this is how they register it, like, and we have enough to know that like they sit in this place and it's a certain amount of people in this organization, right? And at that point there was like a really clear knowledge of like, this is the GRU unit, blah blah blah, and this is what they do. And we were, at the time, we mostly associated them with like hack and leak ops and like some of that stuff. The issue, and this is where accuracy, it's about like degrees of accuracy. I don't think that these folks are necessarily completely inaccurate, but I think that the terms start to hurt you more than they help you. And I'll say that because I just don't think Sandworm is a meaningful construct anymore. And that's been signaled, and we've discussed it on this podcast. It's been discussed in some of the releases from the Dutch and some of the other folks that have contributed to this, which is to say, it's been a long time. These organizations restructure on purpose in order to remain fluid, in order to adapt to new situations, in order to just confuse people who observe them on purpose. That's how intelligence agencies work. So, of course, using an old signifier like that with all of the stuff that's been overloaded into it over the past 15 years is going to be more confusing than it is helpful. In this particular case, if we're saying, hey, it's not sandworm, it's berserk bear, I mean, does that matter to the people doing political commentary and to the folks doing sort of diplomatic overtures? Not necessarily. I'm not saying they shouldn't care, but you're still talking about, somebody in Russia made a decision to do a thing that's equally unacceptable, and whether it was done by the right hand or the left hand, I mean, it hardly matters when it comes to like the grand scheme of things. Now, when we talk about the threat intel side of it, I do think it matters precisely to what Costin was saying. You kind of want people to be checking each other's work and to be substantiating things, and then you usually get a sense of, if we put all these things together, they point in a given direction. And that's why you don't necessarily want to pre-color and overload these things when you don't have a good sense of what's going on. Berserk Bear is supposed to be sitting within the FSB. Sandworm, for whatever it is supposed to be sitting within the GRU. We can have these like complex conversations about whether, they now support each other and now maybe they all work out of a single entity, like this, like the Chinese Strategic Support Force. Like we can talk about all that shit, but right now what we're doing is kind of trying to salvage an assessment because of things people have said that maybe they shouldn't have said, right? Like I think it's equally valid to say this looks Russian. There's TTPs that point towards certain Russian things. We're not sure which one exactly. The ecosystem is murky. And that's a valid thing to say. I think that's the intellectually honest thing to say. And some folks are going to have more indications. The polls.
We lost one.
But not.
Costin, did we lose him?
I don't think it's
so.
the same deal for
still here.
For some
Costin,
of the threat intel companies.
I got the impression I read the Polish CERT report that they went out of their way to make it clear this is not sandworm.
I saw that, yeah.
Two questions for you.
Why do
you think they did that?
Mm-hmm.
And is there a legitimate reason why ESET would not once call it sandworm, but even today in their new report still has a medium confidence that it's sandworm?
I think it would be also important to say why each of these research groups attributed to these different threat actors. So on one hand, we have ESET, and the reason why they say they think it's sandworm is because of code similarities with another wiper they call Zov wiper. And this Zov wiper they detected in November 2025, targeting I think financial company in Ukraine, if I remember correctly. So they say, because we think and we know, like with high confidence, that activity was sandworm, we also believe that this new malware that is similar to the Zov wiper must be sandworm as well. Now, on the other hand, we have the Polish CERT and the associated umbrella organization saying something along the lines of attribution towards the infrastructure. They say, the infrastructure used for initial access, for exfiltration, for operating the whole thingy, this infrastructure overlaps with previously known infrastructure that was leveraged by static Tundra Berserk Bear. And I think that because of many, many reasons, and even Polish CERT, they also have a line in the report about the code, and they say, look, there's other wiper scripts which appear to have been developed using AI and LLMs. And the similarities, the code similarities alone, they're not sufficient to point into a direction with enough confidence and weight. And I tend to agree with this assessment. We live already in a world where it's really easy to use AI to build anything from scratch. You can even say, build me a wiper, or let's call it something else. Build me a tool that fills files with zeros. You know, I need it for testing purposes to clean up my SSDs. That is similar to this other tool. So attribution based on code alone is a very perilous pit. You need to put something else. You need to pivot on several other facts here. You need the infrastructure. If you can get something else like command and control servers, passwords, attacker commands, domain registration, OPSEC failures, those together can give you a better feeling of where the attack came from, and the attribution overall will be more solid. But I have the impression that nowadays attributing on code alone is no longer on the table.
Why do you think the polls went out of their way to make this distinction? Clearly they want you to they want to push this attribution away from Sandworm. You agree with them? Why? Because it seemed to me to be very deliberate.
Well, two reasons here. One, me as a technical guy, if I have a different, let's say that you ask me to write a report on something and you point me to another report which is already public and my conclusion is different, then I want to be thorough and I want to be precise. So it depends very much on how you ask the question and why you ask me to publish this report. And two, there may be other reasons that we are not familiar, we're not aware of why this particular fine-grained attribution is important in this story. Perhaps, I don't know, there were operatives on the ground that helped somehow, I don't know, with initial access. Perhaps they had the recruited sources in there. Perhaps there were like assets on the ground that actually assisted with the targets, in the sense saying, you need to hit this, you need to hit that. They did recon in advance, maybe Wi-Fi networks. Unfortunately, we know from the Policer report that in every single targeted installation, there was a Fortinet device that hasn't been patched for years, that probably didn't have enough care or FortiCare. And even if it had, probably it wouldn't matter anyway. So we know the initial access has a Forti angle to it. But at the same time, we don't understand like maybe the full picture just yet. And it's quite possible that, again, NASC and the Policer, they know a lot more, which they can't talk about yet. And I'm confident that they did a very thorough work and investigation into this incident to cover pretty much all the angles. To me, for instance, one of the most interesting details in the story was the compromise of these Fortinet devices. So it wasn't like it just happens that we've been working on a similar case which involves Fortinet devices. I think I mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. And from the initial compromise through some CVE vulnerability, Fortinet vulnerability, then dumping the hashes, cracking the password, connecting to the VPN. What was the most interesting thing to me in the Fortinet, in the Polish CERT report about Fortinet was the persistence. So how they achieve persistence on those devices, a kind of command and control mechanism through Slack, and how they tried actually, to prevent others from achieving the same thing on these devices. So obviously, when you compromise one of these devices, you don't want someone else to compromise, like a ransomware group, and you are in the middle of deploying your wiper, and those guys just ruin your whole operation by deploying some shitty ransomware for money. So these are absolutely fascinating, and the scripts they configured on these Fortinet devices, I think they also open a kind of a new dimension in initial malware assessment, in forensics. There are like a bunch of things that you need to check whenever your Fortinet device is the entry point into your network. Then you need to, for sure, to look for all these signs of persistence. Theoretically, you need to wipe them. You need to wipe them from scratch. Personally, I recommend you just get rid of them and replace them
in the fucking trash
with something else. Be it even, I don't know, if you say newer Fortinet devices. It's like with the joke with the hunter and the bear that is not suitable for this podcast, but nevertheless, long story short, the hunter kept going to the same forest and he kept getting owned over and over by the bear. And the bear asked, like, man, I think, you're coming in our forest because you really like getting owned from behind. And yeah, I mean, if you need to, then yeah, sure, replace them with other Fortinet devices. But I think the overall thing is it's a great report, and you need to pay attention to the fine print, to all these gems that you find in the Polish
There's a
CERT
lot
report.
of gems in there.
Mm.
I want to touch on one thing there on this VPN stuff, though. I get the impression that the people deploying this critical infrastructure, this network that moves power from wind and solar into this controller box that was controlled by something, and the Russians hacked into these RTU controller boxes from multiple vendors and so on, right? It's like these things were set up with default credentials. They seem no multi-factor authentication. They seem to be set up willy-nilly without any sort of security. How much victim blaming are we willing to do here? That, come on, if this is critical infrastructure that could affect civilians in this way, why is this shit set up with this old Fortinet thing running on with default credentials, no MFA, and people can move around willy-nilly inside there? What do you make of that?
We can't get away from, look, accountability doesn't have to rest on a single person, right? Like, we don't need to paint a single villain and overload them with everything. Should you have better security for OT environments and critical infrastructure? Absolutely.
This is not asking
No.
for better security.
No.
This is like they
No,
didn't
no.
even have like simple. I hate to say the word basics, but you see
I
what
get
I'm
what
doing?
you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I'm trying to address it sort of in a more comprehensive way, which is to say, yes, you should secure these things better. We have been told and have known for a while that the security of critical infrastructure is generally trash. And part of the complexities of that, depending on the country and whatnot, is, these are things that are privately owned, razor thin margins. You don't necessarily have like a standard. There's a lot of old systems. There's a lot of old setups, and they're meant to run for a very long time. And even
There's
if you
tech
want
debt
to,
in there, I get it.
it's not just tech debt. It's also that like these systems are different. They're meant to run uninterrupted forever. So like this idea that you're just going to go in and like patch a little thing and like, oh, we're just going to go fiddle with it and set up the EDR. You're like, okay, are you willing to shut down the power for X amount of people until you get this shit ready? Right? Like there are complexities to it. It's not an easy thing. So yes, of course, the people securing these things have a responsibility to secure them better. That under no circumstances is that not the case. And yet the responsibility will sit much more on the person who saw an open door and decided to go in and trash the place, right? Like the responsibility is dual, because if you leave it as an easy attack and an opportunistic thing, if there's a low entry threshold, then today we're having the conversation about a nation state attack, but tomorrow it could be a bunch of antisocial teenagers in a fucking Discord who have nothing to do. And at that point you go, okay, well, you left the door open, you made it so easy that you have a much greater responsibility for what has happened. However, when we consider that it's a state-sponsored attacker that has had a lot of success in the past, that has resources available, yes, they got to do it with relative ease this time around. Though I will point out they didn't succeed, right? Like they didn't succeed. Like we are giving these people a lot of shit, considering that like we have an excellent report and the attacker was not able to do what they were able to do in Ukraine, right? Like so. You gotta kind of finagle some of the blame game, and at the same time, I think from the perspective of like line crossing and what do we take away from this, the responsibility should always, the heaviest burden should always sit with the person who decided to pull the trigger. Just because somebody had already laid the gun out and loaded it and put it in place does not mean that you're not responsible for walking up there and like pulling the trigger. It's still on them. The Chinese could have done it. Whomever else who could have done it. The point is that you decided that this was an appropriate thing to do. And I remind you, like this particular scenario is what was fueling Lindsey Freeman and the Berkeley Human Rights Center's attempt to bring up a case for like cyber attacks as these sorts of
war crimes.
Yeah, I mean, just as a different level of attack than simply something that happens in war or simply some bit of espionage. And there is something to be said for where the true red lines are. If turning off the power in the middle of winter to a civilian population does not cross a red line, then I'll just say there are no red lines. And that's it. That's
and something
it.
changed. Something changed. I'll just flag the polls warning in November that bomb attack against a train, derailing a train, was blamed on Russia. Publicly and officially blamed on Russia. Alongside this, like, do we have stock? I spoke to a Russian APT expert this morning at length after reading this report, someone we both know and someone who's, tracks Russian activity. And the key question he is asking is, do we have stock against all these targets that these guys have pre-positioned since at least 2012? Are they still there? How good are we at tracking them? Do we know which countries they're in? Like, what kind of real intelligence work is happening now post-Poland and post this report that tries to get a handle on how much of this new FSB unit that we knew had been doing a ton of pre-positioning, something changed. They were exclusively targeting Western critical infrastructure, but never pulled the trigger. Like, what changed that caused them to pull this trigger? Like, what does this mean?
Costin, do you want to speculate?
I think there's one thing here which you need to remember. That is that Russia has always been probing, expanding and probing and watching the reaction to these probes. And if there's no reaction or little reaction, or the reaction is inconsequential, they keep probing and they keep expanding. Like they take Crimea, nothing happened. All right, that means we can take Ukraine as well. If that, there's no reaction, then we can take Moldova. Like, keep expanding. So this constant probing is part of the overall strategy. I mean, evaluating, like doing like a small thing and then seeing like what is the reaction to that. And if the reaction is not strong enough, there's just condemnations, strongly object, we protest.
Very concerned.
We are like gravely concerned. We express our strong condemnation of this attack, but in practice nothing happens. I mean, it's just a reason for them to do it on the next level. I mean, do it more, do it in a more aggressive way against more countries. Maybe not against the UK, maybe not against the US, but I mean, Eastern Europe is fair game. In particular, let's not forget that an arms factory in Czech Republic was blown up by GRU operatives because they were sending these weapons to Ukraine. They tried to poison a Bulgarian weapons dealer as well because he was helping Ukraine. So I think that probably everything has kind of a nexus to Ukraine, which is an extremely important, but at the same time, it has a probing angle. Let's just do it and see what happens. Like, worst thing, they, kick out our diplomatic personnel. They declared 10 of our guys in Poland persona non grata. And like, what else? What else can they do? Like, what? Freeze our funds? They're frozen. Sanction us? We're sanctioned.
Wow. I think that's a strategic miscalculation on their part when it comes to the Poles. I think Poland deserves a lot of respect. We've learned to respect the Ukrainians by watching how they handled business, once the die was cast. the Poles have a long history of handling business their own way. And I think there's been a general sentiment by folks who are avid observers of the space for certain periods of time. And I think I've mentioned it here, where we're just kind of like, there's a fear and anxiety that Poland would decide to just carry out war on a separate front against Russia proactively. And I'll be honest, I mean, not to warmonger, but like, we're already in a war. There's already a lot of people who've died and will continue to die. I don't love the hedging. I don't love the moving back and the pussyfooting. And yes, we support you. No, we don't. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Kind of thing. When you're talking about a bellicose player like Russia that is willing to cause harm and damage all over the place, that has no red lines, that is supporting every other enemy and problem that we have, and is now in like a fully anti-socially entrenched role. Right, like it's hard. There's nothing against the Russian people, but you know, it's you look at the Russian government and its standing right now, and it's hard to point at like what its pro-social contributions are to the global order. And there's a laundry list of things that you go, this is a bad thing that Russia enables. This is a bad thing that Russia provides. This is a bad situation that Russia continues, like, perpetuates. So. I'm not lusting after war. I think the only people foolish enough to do that are the ones who haven't seen it. But we're already in it. And on some level, I wonder if the Russians are basically going to make the Polish people take the gloves off and really take a war to them. And yeah, they may be getting gains in Ukraine, and like it's not like it's like a done deal, but I don't think they could handle like a second front with a well-armed NATO adversary who's been fucking itching to take it to them.
Costin, why isn't this a front page story on the New York Times and the Washington Post today? Like, in my mind, this is so significant, right? And it's passing as just another APT report. So that's one. The second thing I noticed, there's no CVEs in this entire report. Does that say that there's no O-Day activity happening as part of this campaign? And what, again, going back to the victim blaming, like, how are these things so wide open, so easy to compromise that you don't even need 0 days? It's just compromise credentials, bouncing around with some
Fortinet alone, bro. Leave Fortinet alone. They 40 care. They 40 care super hard. And they're 40 trying, okay? And the fact that they've been 40 failing for like, I don't know,
40
like
years,
40 fucking years doesn't seem to matter, but they're trying really hard, okay? 40 failing, yes. Yeah, so at this point,
VPN and firewalls as the entry points is like, it's the irony of it doesn't escape anyone.
I've been saying it for 2 years. I just keep going. You know, the Ukrainian war brought to you by Fortinet, PulseSecure, and Ivanti, and these people. Like, those fucking appliances, it's not that they have O-Days. It's not that they have, you know, an exploitable surface. Any network appliance that's like, of course you're going to want to hit it. It's the front door. It's the easiest. Like, that is the labeled front door to a network. So if I know I want to hit that network, those are the appliances I care about. However, you don't have to make it so fucking easy. You also can help people who own your piece of shit product to be able to know that they're getting attacked, to be able to know that they got attacked. When I see some of these fucking patches and releases, what makes me fucking itch, like what kills me, is that there's this like underhanded shit where they go, you better patch, because if you don't patch, it's your fault. But also, we're going to disinfect the thing and not tell you if it was there in the first place. And then you go, oh, okay, so in order to be secure, I need to be in cahoots with you about wiping out any traces and information I might have about what's happening in my fucking network. And part of that problem is if they were in that appliance and they had visibility into all of it, that means that they also have all the passwords. That means they have everything else that they need in order to gain access through somewhere else. So I don't know how to look at these companies without just feeling like they're being neglectful and almost gloating their way through just trying to keep this shit going for as long as possible, just pad their pockets for as long as they can, and just like keep people quiet until the music stops.
What are you asking for? You're saying that they should be helping. What specifically are you asking for? And pull that microphone a little closer so I don't miss a second of this rant.
Oh, Jesus. I'm not. No, look,
No,
man.
what specifically are you asking for? Like, what can Fortinet, Ivanti, Pulse Secure, all these people be doing beyond trying to fix their shit and signing a pledge and doing their stuff? What realistically and on the ground are you asking for?
Look, man, I don't
There are
care.
good people at these companies that are trying. I'm not. There are individually good people at these companies that are trying. I know this for a fact. What do you want from them?
For those of you Forti trying, I can't. Look, there is no such thing as a not exploitable device. There is no such thing as perfect security. I am not expecting any of these companies to magically produce that. The problem that we have is a problem of observability. It's a problem of inspectability. It's a problem of silent failure. And the fact that you have to recognize that all these people are selling you is the front door to a house that has a lot of valuables and a lot of other problems. And it has windows and it has all kinds of other mechanisms somebody can use to exploit. We need to be able to forensically examine these devices. We need to be able to get telemetry out of them. If I own this piece of shit, I need to know when something is wrong with it.
And why
I need
can't
to
you
know
today?
because you have no way to forensically inspect these devices without calling Fortinet or Cisco or Ivanti and essentially surrendering to whatever terms they decide to impose on you, whether it's an NDA or a paid service or a go fuck yourself. And at that point, you're left with what? Oh, I'm going to go desolder some chips. I'm going to go fucking try to like JTAG my way into it. And what have we seen? The Chinese have been taking advantage of that because there's so little ability to inspect the fucking devices that they can make it so the device is full of tripwires. So the minute you try to like dump a core, it disinfects and restarts. The minute you mistype, you try to do, what was it, tab completion. Oh, it fucking disinfected. So they're playing with us because they know we can't do shit. And in this particular case, fine, maybe you don't care about Salt Typhoon and Volt Typhoon and whatever thousands of Chinese groups only MJ and Dakota can track. But in this particular case, Fortinet is enabling wartime activity. It's enabling people, these people, had it been for that company alone, the people in Poland would have been freezing through the new year. So when does somebody come down the Forti mountain and show us some Forti accountability in the process of Forti caring? Because I'm sure they're charging us for every one of those fucking steps.
$40.
$40.
EDR and anti-malware software take a lot of shit in this industry, but in effect, EDR actually caught this at multiple stages, and the polls described in their report there were multiple places where the EDR technology did some flagging and stopped something. Specifically, in addition, there was one mention of EDR canary technology that allowed them to be able to see files being manipulated and block the rest of the activity. The polls also got a lot of data and logs from these devices. I know Juanito says there are no inspectability. They were able to inspect and got a lot of things from these devices. So I mean, I guess if you're the Polish CERT and you have some government power, you have access to these things.
That's why they're stuck like desoldering chips off of them right now, right? Like that's why they're doing that.
Oh, that's the reality of what
that's because they got so much fucking telemetry out of them. Yeah. No, fuck this. Like there's no, I will not stand by the whitewashing of this shit, period. Like there are people working their asses off to work against how these devices work and how these companies work to try to assemble a picture. And I think it's all the more admirable that the Polish CERT and their IC and everybody and ESET have been able to build so much of the attack. This was an excellent report. Like what we got from the Polish CERT, like we haven't seen a whole
Which
lot
shows
from
that
them
they had
in recent years.
inspectability and they had data and telemetry and stuff. They
No,
did.
not necessarily on those devices. It shows that they were able to recreate things using a whole lot of different things. And I'm happy for them. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't matter that the Fortinet devices did not provide telemetry, because the Fortinet devices were the front door to the entire fucking campaign, right? Like you hit 30 different sites, all of them have Fortinet devices. It was kind of a critical component of being able to pull off the fucking attack, right? Like let's not soften it. I'm glad that they're able to put this together based on all kinds of other components. AD stuff and other logs and independent logs from the different EDR things and whatever the incident responders were able to pick up. But there's a reason these are wiper attacks, right? Like you're trying to do away with all of the operational components and all the proof that the attack happened. And you know what would be a great thing to be able to check? The fucking network device through which all of the attack was conducted.
The predicament is that you can't rip Fortinet out and kick it out and replace it with something else. There is no something else. I mean, we've talked about this. We've talked about this so much on the podcast. It's kind of a boring subject for me, but there is no alternative, because your alternative is Ivanti, Cisco, the guys who have the same list of problems. And Costin, what's the alternative? Like, how do you protect these critical infrastructure things that affect civilians in a way where a Fortinet VPN or firewall isn't a single entry point that breaks everything apart? Like, how do you protect against this stuff?
Two things here. I'm still thinking about your question. Why isn't this on the front page of the New York Times? And I was looking right now at the front page of the New York Times. You know what's on the front page? It says, Trump administration. Kevin Warsh is Trump's pick. Will Warsh do what Trump wants? Another story. FBI search, blah, 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 Trump. Fourth story. Did Trump really give Nicki Minaj? Who is Nicki Minaj? Anyway,
Don't worry
fifth
about
story.
it. Don't worry about it.
Then,
You don't need
sixth
to
story.
know this.
Trump threatens Canada over blah, blah, blah. It's like all Trump. Trump. Then there's a bit of Minnesota, a bit of Melania, then Trump again. That's what on the first page of the New York Times.
Trump.
Different priorities.
Why isn't this a bigger story in the West?
Because I think it's very difficult to explain this story to the common people. It's super hard to explain it. And this didn't happen like, I don't know, somewhere nearby. It's all the way in Poland. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to make it sound in like a
It's
bad way.
not front page story in Bucharest.
Maybe
That's
people
my
don't
point,
even know where Poland
Come on, it
is.
should be
Like,
a
what's
front
Poland?
page story in whatever, like the Chicago Times, right? Like we do have massive Polish diaspora and populations in the United States. Like frankly, probably more people in the United States know where Poland is than Ukraine. But regardless, it's a NATO country. It's about the framing, and frankly, for
We've
all
spent
of
the last 2
discussions-
years talking about Volt Typhoon pre-positioning for this type of attack. When the time comes, if this
China.
pre-positioning word, right? But this pre-positioning
China.
word has already been registered in our psyche here in the U.S. It's Chinese, yes, but this now we have evidence that the guys who have been traditionally pre-positioning have now been activated to do destructive attacks. Like I feel like there has to be something in there that
Look, fuck the New York Times. It's not that it should be a front page of the New York Times story, but like the EU should care, right? Like that's the part. At the end of the day, the US is just gonna, like, we're in a more isolationist space now. We don't necessarily give a flying fuck about the rest of the planet. We have our own problems, and we do. And okay, like I'm sorry that we're not there to support the way that I wish that we were. We have other priorities at this time. Forgive us for trying to figure some of that shit out. But what I will say is there's a whole other slew of fucking countries, the entirety of the EU, which has a legitimate reason to give a fuck. It's not just NATO. We've been talking about how like these components can be used anywhere in Europe. They can attack anywhere in Europe, and they have been willing to attack different countries in Europe for all kinds of things. Right. So to me, at the end of the day, who this should matter to, who the red lines are for, it's not the US. It is the rest of the Western European nations that have to worry about the fact that Russia is not that far away. And in a world where we just let Ukraine fold, which I hope is not the case, I hope that's never in the cards. But in a world where Ukraine folds, the whole point is, well, that border just moved right up. So that was always the conversation. So now they're hitting on a different front. They're going straight at a NATO country. What are you expecting? Is it Latvia and Romania and Finland and Sweden next? And do you care then? Do you care if they go straight at Germany and shut the power off? Are you going to send strongly worded letters then? Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
And to answer your second question, by the way, which I thought also was very important, like, can you actually secure these things? Like, look at that wonderful cat. You need to watch this on YouTube in 4K or whatever.
I had to keep him from just putting his snout straight in the camera.
Microphone.
Yeah, exactly. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Costin, how do you
secure them?
How do you secure these things?
There are some like wonderful details in the Polish CERT reports, such as, for instance, when it talks about the fact that because the attackers had administrative access on these Fortinet devices, they could bypass all the firewall filtering, the segmentation. Like typically when you get one of these devices, let's say you set up the right way, but so you somehow maybe you forget about 2FA, other things. So what you do is you do network segmentation, which means if you VPN into one of these devices, you're only allowed to connect to one network, and from there you cannot connect to the domain controller or other more important servers. So you have some sort of segmentation, you have firewall rules. The moment that you compromise one of these devices and you start dumping password hashes, if your passwords are weak, that's one. And two, you have administrative access on this device. You can reconfigure the networks, you can reconfigure the hell out of it, and you'll have full network access. Then, also, these devices, sometimes they're not just alone, but they are like connecting multiple locations together. And then what the attackers do, they just sit on the device and they watch the traffic for enough time, capturing things like hashes, authentication hashes, passwords, and other things that are flowing through these devices. So in reality, even let's say if you use a lot of decent security measures, the moment that these devices are compromised, it's like really bad. What you can do extra, the steps you can do is, one, you make sure that all the passwords on these devices are something like 32 characters long. That's it. Two, you make sure two-factor authentication is enabled. It has to. I mean, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, it happens like this. You say, hey, we need to boost our security. We need budget to buy Fortinet. And you buy the Fortinet and they, oh, by the way, we need 2FA hardware, 2FA devices or whatever, tokens. And so like, what? We don't have budget for those. Like, we just got the budget for the Fortinets. Why do you need the 2FA tokens? And you're like, then let's just try password, right? So unfortunately, like the full ecosystem, to get it right with the whole ecosystem, with other things like Windows, again, so it's not like typical, it's not just Fortinet, but then behind that, you have a Windows domain. And even in the report, they talk about the attackers, they were doing credential theft, they were dumping LSASS. From there, they were getting tokens, like using Rubeus, which is a tool specifically for attacks against Kerberos authentication. You create golden tickets, diamond tickets, and with those, you do whatever you want in that Windows domain. And it's pretty much the end of the story. The moment that happens, it's the end of the story. So unfortunately, it's extremely difficult to secure this ecosystem. But if you have 32 character passwords, long, strong passwords, two-factor authentication enabled, decent logging, EDR, whatever enabled, and immutable backups, then typically you'll have a better chance at surviving these attacks than your, let's say, average user. Like in practice, all the attacks that I have seen, they were all against people who were unprepared. They didn't have 2FA, or they had like password was 123 123 456, something like that. Or the administrator's VPN password was the same as the administrator's domain login, something like that. So you just
Secure by design principles missing.
true, and you need to like regularly audit this. You need to dump the hashes yourself. Unfortunately, yeah, you need to be a security expert, and unfortunately, the people who are managing your infrastructure, they're not security experts. They're just system administrators, and usually underpaid and working the extra hours and not having enough budget. That's the reality.
And there's a big gap in our vulnerability. I mean, that's a big, giant part of the attack surface that just never gets talked about. We talk about everything else except, like, these things are left unprotected because of lack of resources and so on. We got some IOX, Costin, good IOX, good samples, and tell me what happens when the Polish folks drop their report. ESET followed up with their report. What happens next in a threat hunting lab at TLP Black in Sentinel-1? Like, what are you guys using this report for? What are you hunting for?
Well, what we do is, of course, you need to review this report, see what's new. And there's a lot of new things in both reports, not just the Polish CERT, but also the ESET report talks about the ZOV wiper, which is this new wiper they identified. So what's next? You need to go through the report and extract, let's say, unique things such as Yara rules. The Polish report has a Yara rule that you can use for hunting. I already used this rule. Unfortunately, it doesn't find anything else, kind of suggesting that this is like maybe custom made or like a new production if you want. And also at the same time, I think it's important to mention a few other things that our friend Pasquale, using his system, was able to find some other similarities. So shout outs to Rational Edge and Pasquale, who is also on top of this. So people will try to find more angles. They'll try to pivot and find what else is with this story. Like, what else is unknown? What about attribution? Can we find other tools? In my opinion, it's difficult to find more just on the wiper alone. It might be possible to find more based on some of the other tools and the way the Fortinet devices were backdoored and how they achieved the persistence on these things. I think there's more there. Maybe on the VPN tunnels they were using, like things like the anonymization infrastructure used by this threat actor. And as far as I can see, there aren't many details on that thing alone. They're just a bunch of IP addresses in the report. But I suspect that somehow they're probably way more, right? So one of them is, for instance, a compromised server. The good news is that they're all indicators from November and December, meaning they're very fresh. So other people can use and see what else those things were used for. So you can expand, like we can expand on the knowledge. At the same time, I think it, like I said it before, it's important that one of the big companies like Google, Microsoft also come up with their reports and see what else they know. I mean, with their visibility, with their insane visibility, there should be more they can say about this attack, which in my opinion,
Microsoft specifically has been tracking these Dragonfly people for a long time. They've documented these folks before. Why is it important for you to get that third party stamp of validation assessment? You don't trust the Polish CERT? You think that's a government agency, so there's always something missing there? You believe they're withholding some additional information? Give me a sense of why.
We used to joke, sometimes when some, again, the Polish CERT, they're absolutely awesome. Like I said, remember that I was the one who said this during our previous episode.
2 weeks ago, I was asking if a Polish CERT existed. Today, I get one of the best APT reports I've ever read.
You see, and I was pitching that, and you were saying, "Oh, but they haven't published any reports since June or something like that last year." And it doesn't matter. They know their ins and outs. But why is it important? I think that in my opinion, it's still very important that we have a better picture, a more precise picture of exactly which group was behind it, and there should be no doubt in like this attribution, because it's a big thing, and the attribution should be flawless. I fully agree with what Jags was saying in the beginning, that if you're unsure on the attribution, it's better just not to say anything. Me personally, I would just keep attribution if I wasn't confident in my assessment. And remember, like back in the days, we just completely skipped attribution and said, honestly, like we don't have enough information so that we can make an accurate statement on the attribution part of things.
Isn't that
So
why you do this confidence thing, though? This low confidence, medium confidence. You give people
yeah,
a sense of
but
why you're hedging, and because I feel like you should do attribution and show your work.
yeah,
Just show
but
your work.
like look, you see, let's say I ask you, like someone broke into your home and you tell me, I think with medium confidence it was my neighbor. What can I do with that information? Like, do I go to your neighbor, I break down their door, beat them, and get your stolen property back? Or it's not enough to do that? Is it medium confidence enough or not? What do you think?
I mean, that's what your industry has settled on. I mean, for the most part, this is ESETs. I mean, you guys, Juanito, do you
This
guys
is
use
an
this medium low
intelligence
confidence?
assessment. This
I
is
mean, that,
like it comes from the intelligence world, like the CIA or whatever, where nobody. It's like the world of lawyers. Whenever you ask the lawyer, "Hey, what should I do?" they will never tell you what you need to do. They'll say, "We do not advise you to go break down your neighbor's door to retrieve your property. We do not advise you to do that." Um, yeah, it's just our advice with medium confidence, and that's part of the advice, and it costs you $40 or 40
well,
care net dollars.
14. There's look, the confidence levels are, as Costin said, right? It's part of like intelligence assessment and like how you normally do just proper intelligence, and you should do it that way. But a part of what people forget is we're still vibing our way through it. When someone in the US intelligence community says the medium confidence, I mean, there's standards to that shit that are like no joke. It's not like medium confidence because vibes say medium versus vibes say, low. Like it's a whole fucking matrix just to try to make it consistent. Because otherwise, like today I feel like medium and tomorrow I feel high and the different analyst says low and like it just doesn't mean anything. But the whole point is that this is an intelligence assessment that's meant to inform decision makers. And you want to be able to give them a sense of to what degree they can rely on this assessment. And that's the problem that you have when you just straight up blurt it out, right? Like you say, oh, it's Electrum. Okay. Well, when you just say, oh, well, medium confidence sandworm, like, and no shade on ESET whatsoever. They always do phenomenal work. But like, I read that and I don't have a problem with what ESET is saying in particular. I'm sitting here going, but like, what is sandworm in this situation, right? Like to Kostin's point about just not doing attribution, there were multiple points, I think, where we wrote reports where what we said is, we don't know, we're not sure, could be this. Here's like 6 different little things that point in this direction or that direction or the other one, but we're not going to make an assessment because we don't have enough to make an assessment. And I think I don't think I have ever regretted any one of those scenarios in writing a report. Like I've never sat there and been like, fuck, like we should have just said it was whatever. It's like, no, I'm glad we held back, right? Like there's instances in Turkey and Saudi Arabia where, like, if you remember, like Black Oasis stuff, like there were a lot of things where we had a gut feeling, and you kind of hold back and you go, let's just say what we see and not make an attribution claim. And then 4 years later, you find out, yeah, it looked muddy as fuck because it was this organization that was subcontracting with hacking team and this other company, and the infrastructure was shared with whatever. So whatever we would have said was going to be inaccurate. It's going to be kind of accurate, but not really accurate. And frankly, political players can get away with that, and the New York Times can, of course, get away with that. But I think the technical substantiation, the people who are putting down like what the technical report is, that's where you need it to be the least biased and hopefully the most useful going forward and over time, and with some intellectual honesty to it.
Are we asking for the removal of this low confidence, medium confidence from all? Are we saying the threat
No.
research labs should stop doing this? Like, what's the threshold?
No, that they need to do it better, right? Like,
Okay.
it's not that they need to stop doing it; they need to do it better. And I think the problem with, dude, Sandworm is not just any other APT. There's a book called Sandworm. There's there's a lot of like already known, recognizable branding and marketing around the name Sandworm. So when people are tempted to use the term Sandworm, it's because using that moniker imbues it with a certain amount of benefit that they won't get if they just call it something else, right? If they call it Iceworm, people are not going to know what the fuck it is. And you go, well, it's just one name like any other name. But if I go Sandworm, even if it's inaccurate, journalists are going to know what I'm talking about. People are going to tie it to the book. People are going to tie it to previous operations. We're going to know what we're talking about. So like it's a way of doing good PR, but it's a bad way of doing good threat intel. We should just retire those names. Like one thing that I didn't have to deal with when that new analysts have to deal with is when we came up, there weren't that many established groups. People were just figuring out what APTs looked like, what nation state operations looked like, starting in like 2011, 2012, as far as like the private sector was concerned. So it was a largely blank canvas, and we did our best to fill that canvas with some rigor. And every once in a while, you'd get some shitty, irresponsible player that would come up and you know, make up some bullshit like Pistachio Harvest, and we'd all want to fucking throw them out of a window. But for the most part, people were trying hard to be rigorous. There are new problems that I didn't have to deal with at that time, which is that the canvas isn't blank anymore. And there's no easy way to retire old things, right? Like Winty and Lazarus, where you just go, what, you know, or Sandworm, where you just
Is it
go.
Winty? Is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was WinNTI.
I mean,
And for
you know,
10 years of my life, I've been saying WinNTI. You just kind of threw my head in a loop. Sorry.
I mean, I've always called it Winty. I don't know what's right or not, but like,
What is it,
but
Costin?
my point is that you shouldn't use Winty, period. Right? Like these days, when you see the term Winty or you see the term Lazarus, like there's a visceral, and same Sandworm for me, there's kind of visceral reaction where you go, well, we already started on the wrong foot, so let's see what we can salvage from this report. Right? Like it's a shibboleth. You're telling me that you don't really know how this works right now, and you're trying to signal that something is related to something, but the minute I see that term, I now need to look at this with a different skeptical eye, because I know that you've either missed some level of detail that was there that you just didn't know to appreciate, or it wasn't there and you've decided to compensate with something that I now need to compensate against.
Costin, you mentioned there's a couple of new morsels and some nuggets hanging around. You want to flag a couple for some of our threat hunting folks who are listening, give people some clues about things that they could be doing, some places to advance the research?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I would be looking a bit more at what they were doing on these Fortinet routers. And in the PoliCERT report, there's a number of screenshots of Fortinet router configuration, like this method used to exfiltrate data to the attacker-controlled Slack channel. So these kind of techniques, to me, you know, they seem interesting. So I guess if people would start digging more through this kind of thing, I think there's a chance to find more interesting things there. These scripts that they were running, for instance, to edit the security fabric of the device, all of those are like super interesting. The IP addresses used for anonymization, they're also super interesting. Unfortunately, the RRO doesn't find other things like I said, but it may be possible perhaps on code and pivoting further from one thing to another to find more. And last but not least, I was just thinking about the theory, like we are jumping between one and another, right? The GRU unit 74455 and the FSB. and with Sandworm and the Berserk Bear, Energetic Bear, Static Tundra, Crouching Yeti, whatever. And I was thinking, what is the probability that these two entities were actually working together here? Like the Chinese have for many years, when you see like one team comes and produces the access, then they pass it to another team, and then they can't achieve the target and they pass it to yet another team. And this is how you get to see things like three different Chinese APT groups, such in this fantastic, I think, Crimson Palace report from Sophos, which talks about the different threat actors in the same target passing access from one to another. So I was wondering, what if in this case we have somehow a similar situation where multiple actors are working together to achieve this goal, and everyone is seeing just pieces of the puzzle, and in the end it may be that everyone is right and they were just working together. Me personally, I rate this low confidence. It's like when you go to the restaurant and you ask for a steak and the waiter says, how do you want it done? And you say, medium. And it comes back medium rare. And I can't eat medium rare. It's like,
comes
they
back
take
perfect.
it back. For you, it's maybe perfect for you. For me, it's like you take it back, bring it back. So it comes back medium well. That's fine. But like the perception sometimes matters, and different restaurants cook it using different methods. And maybe here you see overlap from different groups working together in different restaurants for some outcome, passing the access from one of group to another. And perhaps, again, for me, this is medium rare, but who knows? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Juanito, you go. My head is going to conspiracy theories. Is it crazy for me to think that the 2026 Winter Olympics will be a place where some signaling will happen? We have evidence of this in the past, where these kind of big sporting event type spectacles are used for APT activity for some signaling. So two questions. One is, just to close it on this topic, what is the big signal being sent here with this wiper attack from December 29, Juanito? And can we expect, or should they be bracing for the Olympics to be disrupted in some way through some more signaling? We're in the midst of like really, really high stakes negotiations.
Where are these fucking
happening.
Olympics again?
Milano, Milano. It's in Europe somewhere.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't understand why people give a shit about these things.
In
But
Milan,
like,
I guess.
the Russians really do. Look, man, like I don't get what there is to signal if there are no reactions, right? Like the whole point of signaling is that you are showing a capability, you are suggesting a possibility, and you are essentially saying, either do this or don't do this because
you're waiting for a reaction.
Yeah, we're holding you at risk in this way, or we're pushing you towards this, that, or the other in whatever way. Okay, cool. And if nobody's reacting, or if they're reacting erratically, then it's not signaling. It's just, you're just kind of flipping a table and seeing if somebody wants to fight you. And nobody's fighting you. They're also not fixing the table, right? Like it's just a mess, right? So I don't want to call it signaling. I think there have been attempts at legitimate signaling, but for the most part, signaling isn't really something that's being accomplished very successfully by most people. So I think it's just a mess, right? You're just making a mess. Because when you do stuff like that, like these wiper attacks, like you look at Sony Pictures Entertainment, right, and the Death Over Wiper, and you go, okay, well, what did they accomplish really? You didn't stop the movie from coming out. You actually made a stoner comedy far more popular than it ever would have been. You showed mostly that you're willing to do reckless, dumb shit that other people wouldn't do. And I wonder to what extent you furthered people giving a shit about your cyber ops in the first place. Because like when we looked at it then we realized it was like, oh, these guys have been active for at least like 7 years and nobody had put this stuff together. Like there were disparate reports of like what we now recognize as like Lazarus ops since like 2008. but nobody had really drawn that stuff together. And then you do this and everybody kind of looks at you. Is that a net negative? Not necessarily, right? Like you look at how the cyber operations in North Korea have grown, it worked out for them. Sometimes you just want to get yourself a nice medal. But as far as like 4D chess, when it comes to what's happening between these countries, I don't know that anybody's really playing 4D chess. At least not definitely not from the Russian side, right? Like definitely fucking not.
Not responding is a response. What are we expecting? What do we expect from the polls? One, what do we expect realistically? And what do you think they should be doing?
I think look, if the polls don't do anything, it's bad. But I will be very surprised if they don't do anything. Like just the way the polls have acted in the past, I don't know shit about how their government works. I don't know where they are. I don't know much about what's going on over there at all. So I'm not pretending to suddenly be a Poland expert. I don't know a fucking thing about what's happening in Poland. But knowing how the polls have acted in the past and how good their intelligence is and like, you know, how much they dislike sort of the situation with Russia, I will be very surprised if they don't do anything. I'm not saying they're going to retaliate with cyber. That's some like armchair bullshit. I expect them to start blowing people up in Moscow, right? Like I just expect, you know, like a general here and a person over there and the dude who did the thing suddenly all like meet their untimely end. And that's what I expect from them, if not a larger reaction, because the whole point is everybody in Europe has been telling you, hey, don't overreact. Don't do this. Don't cross the border. Don't try to start a war with Russia. You shouldn't do this. We're gravely concerned, right? And now these dudes like, but for the grace of God and ESET, did you not lose power on New Year's in the middle of winter? And how do you look at the Polish government and say, yeah, please keep sitting on your hands. Our grave concern and our sharply worded letters are surely going to stop this. Like, fuck you. No.
Costin, same question for you. This was your government. What would you expect the response should be?
Well, I'm really curious to see actually if a similar attack may have also happened against Romania and somehow it was averted or somehow it didn't happen because they had better security. I wonder if actually Poland was the first country after Ukraine to suffer this. And I have like, maybe a hunch that it's not just Poland. There may be others that where the attack maybe either didn't achieve its purposes or somehow nobody talked about it, or maybe they thought it was just some random ransomware style attack, or maybe just didn't want to publicize it so they don't get blamed or something. That's one. Two, I would expect multiple countries getting together on this and issuing some kind of a joint statement, even if it's just condemning in the strongest terms. I think that this is a multi-step response. It's something that will require like several steps. And what is, I think, the most important part of the whole thing is that it's not just the condemnation, the protest, whatever, but it's a multi-step. First step is countries get together and say like, we together are just want to say that this isn't cool, like this is a very bad thing, this is no longer okay to happen, like yeah, it's way past, and we're gonna answer, and you're not gonna like the answer, and you want to know actually what hit you, and it will hit you, something like along these lines. And I absolutely agree with what Juan was saying. Yeah, it will be like either people who did this, they go on vacation to Thailand and find themselves arrested and sent to Poland. Or, they're taking a train to somewhere, they get arrested, they get sent to a prison in Poland or Romania or whatever. So, yeah, I think that these things need to have consequences. I mean, that's one thing when it targets military installations, I don't know, governmental buildings, whatever. It's a different thing when it's a terrorist attack targeting civilians. trying to affect people's lives, because this is, again, like I said, terrorist attack.
Isn't it a fair assumption that the West is well pre-positioned in Russian networks as well?
There may very well be, but for
Because
what
I mean, like,
purpose?
apex predators do what apex predators do, right? I mean, isn't it fair to assume that the West has the ability to flip a switch and resend some signals the other way? Yeah.
They probably, like in Venezuela, correct? But again, for what purpose if you don't actually use that capacity? And if you use it, it's like a one-time use. So the question is, do you use it now? Do you use it later? Do you use it ever? Do you use it like a little bit just to send a signal? Or do you slow boil the frog to see actually, like if we do it a bit here in this city at the very end of the world and move closer and closer to the center, and how do they react to all that?
Aye, fascinating. We are an hour and 20 minutes in. Are there any bones left on this thing to pick at 22? I mean, I tried to go into detail. We haven't really touched on a lot of the technical. I encourage people to go read both reports. The Polish CERT paper is fantastic. ESET's also fantastic. And we haven't mentioned Dragos. Dragos put out, you mentioned the code name, Juanito. But there's a report from Dragos out as well that I'll link to that mentions Electron. Listen, read everything. Well, some are useful. Some reports have no IOCs that we sometimes easily dismiss. But read everything. There's a lot of documentation out there. Put a bow on this conversation for me, Juan.
I don't know. I mean, you told everybody to go read everything, and they should, if they have the time, go read everything. I think it becomes really evident, like, who has access to things and who doesn't, and who's kind of adding useful things and who isn't. And I think there's a lot of sensitivity around that right now, but I'm not entirely certain why. Like, Sentinel-1 did not publish anything on this. We got an early share. We checked our detections. We made sure that, like, people are covered. We looked at the data that we have. We assessed that we didn't have anything original to add, so we shut the fuck up. And I understand, like,
what's the threshold for deciding?
I mean, it really has to do with what the perceived utility is of what you're doing, right? Like, are we doing it to help the community? Are you doing it to help victims? Are you doing it for marketing? Are you doing it to ride are you doing it to ride the PR wave? Are you doing it to promote sales? Right. And there's a big difference there, right? Like, on the marketing side, if you just want to have your name attached to this, I think that there's a perfectly legitimate and okay way to do that, which is, here, let me help explain what's happening. Here, I found something that the other people didn't cover. I'm going to point you at the original research. I'm going to say, hey, look, ESET did great stuff and Polish CERT did great stuff, and they didn't cover this part, so I'm going to cover this part, and I hope it helps you, right? I think those are all great contributions. I think those are all legitimate.
Not only great contributions, but encouraged.
Encouraged, necessary, absolutely necessary, with a lot of things, right? If you're wondering about something, chances are other people are wondering about that. And if you have if you have the cycles to figure shit out and you want to share that with other people, it's absolutely welcome, and you should. I think the problem there is, the bigger problems come up when you're not doing marketing, when you're trying to do sales, like you're trying to create a sales pipeline on the basis of, like, whatever the fuck you're doing, or establish yourself as the leader in whatever the fuck is going on. But especially when you're trying to do that and you have no idea what's happening, and you don't actually have access, and you don't actually have indicators. And if you do have indicators, you're treating them like it's the last bottle of Coke in the desert, and like you're sure as shit not sharing any of it with anybody. Of course, people are going to react poorly to that. And honestly, from what we see, right, if your contribution is to muddy the water further, why are you here? Like, what the fuck are you? Just shut up. Sometimes it's better to not say anything, right? Like, if opening my mouth is going to make me look worse, then there is genuine utility to shutting the fuck up. And that's just, it's hard to tell certain people. It's hard to get that across, not even to, it's not like I'm trying to.
Let me play devil's advocate. Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Right. Like, okay,
let me play devil's advocate for a second. If I am Dragos and ESET has a report out, and I have a ton of customers calling my people and my researchers saying, hey, we have some things here, but listen, we're not, like, I'm just playing devil's advocate. What are we supposed to do? Right? Forget Dragos, any other vendor where they have customers calling, they have their CEO asking, what the fuck do we know? Why aren't we out there?
You don't communicate with your customers through your blog or through the newspapers. You communicate with your customers directly. And you can say, we're involved in this IR and that, and we're a responsible player, and we kind of know what's going on. Some of these things we don't know what's going on, and we're going to try to find out.
That you can go
here's
hunting in the
what you can go hunt on that we know. And if you have a serious concern, if you have something else going on in your environment, let us know, and we'll address that directly.
It's a competitive space, though. It's a competitive space where, like, we know we have it. Their report pops out while we're been doing this research for 3 months. They popped out with something. So everyone's expecting us to say something because we're the electric grid people. I'm just asking.
I understand, but this isn't the first time this happens. And if it's important to you to know what you're talking about, if it's important to you to always be able to say something, then invest into having a clue, like having access to data, and B, into healing partnerships. Because if people refuse to share, and like, look, I'll tell you straight up, I had no immediate insight into any of this. I was not involved.
You were begging for samples.
Well, I was like, yo, I want to see this shit, right? Like, and I said it out of curiosity. I wasn't like, yo, send me a sample so I can rush out a blog and fuck over the ESET people. Like, no, I'm curious, right? And even, look, I'll give you a prime example, Hermetic Wiper. I'm very honored to have been able to name Hermetic Wiper because nobody had named it, but ESET discovered it. And ESET put the hash up, and ESET were the ones who like said, yo, some shit's going down. And we all worked on it. And in the first paragraph of anything I wrote, I would say, hey, ESET found that thing. And I got to do this tiny fucking bit of it. Thank you, ESET. And at the end of the day, this is about the Ukrainians who are getting killed. So please, somebody go help the Ukrainians. What's missing from all of this shit is the part where you remember that this was an attempt to freeze a bunch of people in their houses in Poland in the middle of the fucking winter, in the middle of a holiday. I don't give a flying fuck what your company needs to do or what you're trying to sell. And it's
you view that as a declaration of war, right?
I mean, I don't. If they had succeeded, what conversation will we be having?
I know. This is why I'm surprised this is not a bigger story than it actually is.
I hate that it would need to be a success, and even if it were, right? Like, look at what happened in Ukraine. You wouldn't have said that that was a declaration of war, maybe the first time. How about the second time? How about the time they tried the third time, right? Like, which one of these is it? And I think that the true problem here is that we keep talking about red lines and we keep having all this, like, the amount of European concern in the room is like there's
it's
we can barely
overwhelming.
breathe.
The concern is
like there's more concern than oxygen in the air. It's just, right? Like it's just so much concern that it kind of shows you that there are no red lines, that you are just posturing, that you are here for the 15-minute media news cycle, and that if that's all that matters to you, well, then I'm just going to keep, there are no lines, and I'm just going to keep pushing, and you're like, what the fuck are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Right? Like it's a bully. It's just, what are you going to do about it? Right? Like, and my thing is, I think historically, the Russians have a tendency to see themselves as 10 feet tall, 20 feet tall. And that assessment does not tend to be based on anything realistic. It's just like we've all been lying to ourselves so much, and now we're so deep in this. We're like, it's like just we have invested so much into this self-image that we need to ride it off a cliff. And I think the Poles could very well, like, you don't need the US to step in this bitch. Like, the Poles alone if the Ukrainians have been giving you this hard a time with like whatever they could scrounge together, and they've been doing amazing. And I mean, they're super resourceful. Let's not put the Ukrainians down, but like nobody was looking at Ukraine 5 years ago saying you are a military superpower. Nobody, right? So
There are
the
2
polls
million
have
dead
been
young men, though. It's like
the poll. Yeah, no, look, I'm not saying it's come for free. I'm saying you put them in a position where they needed to account for their own survival 3 generations after you starved all of their parents. And of course they fucking lashed out. And they've been giving you the fight of your life. Honor to them. You know what's been happening in the meantime? The other people who remember what you do have been building up. Poland has been building military equipment and trying to figure out how to prepare for this shit the entire time. So I don't know what the Russians are playing at. It's definitely a very strange face of fuck around. And I think the find out might be like pretty grave. But the fuck do I know?
Meanwhile, we are an hour and a half in. The United States has an armada around Iran, where I'm sure there's a lot of cyber activity probably popping up there as well, and we haven't touched anything on that. That's not even a Costin read the top stories on the New York Times. Did you mention Iran there? I mean, it's crazy
There's
the
one
times
story
we live
about
in.
Iran. Yeah, that's one. Where they say they won't negotiate as long as they're threatened. But you know that the discombobulator is coming, right?
Discombobulator.
Some of the reporting on some of the weaponry and some of that stuff, I don't know what to believe, what not to believe anymore. Listen, we got to move on, but it's like we're going to move to the second story on the list.
From the first story, what I think is the most significant thing that stands out to me is that Poland is a fantastic power to be reckoned with. I mean, the quality of this report, their analysis, all of that, again, is way above everything that I have seen from governmental institutions in Europe over the last years. They definitely set kind of a new standard in terms of the amount of IOCs they release, the analysis, pretty much the putting together of these reports. So
it makes for an interesting puzzle.
It does. I don't know. I feel like a non-reaction is also a reaction, and the blaming of Russians for the train attack. It feels just like something has been building up. I swear that we got to move on to this next story, and the people on the podcast will laugh because the next story is an advisory from Ivanti around 2 new CVEs that are exploited at 0-day against a limited number of customers. Ivanti's release updates for Endpoint Manager Mobile, EPMM, addresses 2 critical vulnerabilities. Successful exploitation could lead to unauthenticated remote code execution. So we did get an advisory from them, 2 CVEs. Costin, did you get an IOC? Did you get anything to go hunting? Like, what do we know about this shit?
So if it's just a limited number of customers, it means that we shouldn't be worried about, right? Like it can't be us, or it can't be.
We just spent an hour and a half talking about who those customers are, right?
I just have a feeling that when people say that we are aware of a very limited number, whenever you put that into any report, it is greatly misleading. What is today a very limited number of customers, tomorrow is the Polish national power grid. This is like the most important information around the wording of we are aware of a very limited number. I think we should just don't use this. Don't use this. I mean, even if you're trying to downplay the whole thing, I mean, people notice, people understand, people see it. It's just, I don't know, 2026, this is no longer okay to say, because it's just a very limited number of customers, that you shouldn't be worried that please update yesterday. And by the way, we can't share any IOCs because we don't have, or we don't want to share, because then it wouldn't be a limited number. Maybe you'll find that there's a large number of customers. So as a result, there's no IOCs. To summarize, the answer to your question is there's no IOCs.
Yeah.
And how does a defender operate in these environments? You have this EPMM thingy. There is CVC. Let me read the CV so people know what I'm talking about. 2026-1281 and 2026-1340. They're describing them as critical security vulnerabilities that have already been exploited. And that's it. You get a patch, right? You get information on where to go find a patch.
I just can't mention this very important detail that this vulnerability does not impact any other Ivanti products, including any cloud products such as Ivanti neurons for
For MDM. What is that? You're lucky it doesn't have AI in it. You're lucky it's not Ivanti neurons AI for MDM.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. You gotta read the marketing copy.
I mean, what is the purpose of this? So we can go scrambling to patch? Like, I don't understand.
Liability? What?
Liability, downplaying the whole story, I guess. And like
Should I move to the next story on our list?
What do you do? But what do you do? Like, what do you do? I mean, let's assume that I am one of those unlucky limited number of customers. Let's say there were like 5 of us, and I'm one of them. What should I do? Like, what's the guidance? I mean, how do I find, like, should I hire Mandiant? Should I hire TLP Black? Like, what should I do? Like, it doesn't really answer a very simple question to me. I would have put it this, like, maybe in a better, we reached out to affected parties. We are working with the affected parties and helping them. We are going to update this blog or whatever advisory with IOCs. Or the single, in my opinion, the easiest, most effective advice I can give to Ivanti, they establish a threat intel team of 2 people who works with the industry to share advanced information on these things, like IOCs, hashes, tools, scripts, whatever, and like try to get ahead of the curve. Because every month our episode will be the same. Fortinet, then Ivanti, like we flip between Fortinet, Ivanti, Cisco, Fortinet,
we get into
Microsoft.
Fortinet next again.
Microsoft.
Oh.
So, like, to get ahead the curve, you need to get ahead the curve. I mean, at this point, it's just ridiculous. Get ahead the curve. Establish a team that shares these things in advance with the industry, share some useful information, supports the victims, I don't know, does something proactive in a better manner, because at the moment it's just, I don't know.
What's the throughput out of band tap that you can buy compared to the throughput of some of these appliances? Like, how much would it cost to get an out of band tap that's like of appropriate speed for one of these appliances? Because, like, I mean, the appliances aren't going to get fixed, and we're worried about not getting any indicators. So, like, there's a different way to go about this.
It depends on your budget. So the cheapest you can get, it will be like in the range of $100 for 1 gigabit, like in that range. If you're okay with Chinese devices. If you're not okay with Chinese devices and you want to do European, then it will be like maybe 5 times more expensive, like $1,500, something like that, for an European made out of band tap of 1 gigabit. If you need higher than 1 gigabit, then your cost again, it increases. And I think if you need to do this in the range of 10 gigabit or 25 or even higher, then your cost grows exponentially.
I mean, and I'm asking because we're already talking about some extremely expensive devices, and we're talking about the manufacturers not playing ball and people being exposed and having all kinds of issues. So yeah, it might, okay, if you tell me it costs $100,000, then it's a non-starter. But if you're telling me that, like, I can pay 5 grand, 10
or even
grand,
10 grand,
and like I put one of these things in there, and now
to
I
have
can,
a
like,
sensor, yeah.
well, to have a source of truth, right? I don't give a fuck what you say about what's in or not in your thing. I've collected passive DNS, and I've collected this, that, and the other, and I know for a fact that we have been hitting that, and you didn't tell me, right? And that's what's missing from some of these things.
So, like, in theory, like, I tell you also what you can do. You can just buy, let's say, a second-hand old server, and you put Linux on it, like you bridge a bunch of interfaces together, and you can build your own out-of-band tap. But that becomes a single point of failure. So the biggest problem with out-of-band taps is that if that device, has some kind of an issue, power loss, power failure, you lose internet access. And
fail open.
It happened to me. It happened to me even with professional grade out-of-band taps, which were supposed to work like, flawless. Still, like once per year, they would just, I don't know, crash, and then I lose internet access. And my problem was like, I can't tunnel back into that infrastructure remotely because I just lost the internet completely. So you need like two methods of access, like two separate tunnels, and that just complicates the whole diagram, the infrastructure. So it depends. If you need it to be super, super reliable, then yeah, it will cost money. But again,
how many folks you think are actually doing this at the corporate level?
Yeah, very few. Very few. And what I can advise you, like, out-of-band tap is one thing, but if you couple that with the central syslog storage, that, it boosts your visibility and understanding of whatever is going on tenfold, as opposed to having no syslog storage for everything in your infrastructure. So you can still configure all these Fortinet devices to send a syslog to a remote server. And that is, just a gold mine whenever you need to investigate, or even like for alerts. If you have something like, I don't know, like a Wazoo running on the syslog server or other IDS mechanisms, they will boost your visibility tenfold. What I have noticed, by the way, is that a lot of these devices, what they're seeing on a regular day is thousands of brute force attacks, like people just trying to brute force credentials to access these devices. And all of that is logged. Actually, it goes into the syslog. The problem is that nobody watches the syslog. And even an out-of-band tap, if nobody's watching it, I mean, it can be close to users. Remember what Rob Joyce was saying, that they fear a sysadmin, who has an out-of-band tap and very important, this and part, watching the logs. So you need to do both.
Have the ability to parse it and know what to look for and finding the needle in the haystack.
Mm-hmm.
How do you protect against a vulnerability in a device that allows an attacker with a FortiCloud account and a registered device to log into other devices registered to other accounts?
You skipped a very important part. How do you stop an attacker with a free account?
Somebody got to explain this story to me, because we have a new Fortinet advisory different from everything we just discussed. CVE 2026-24858, marked as already exploited. Vulnerability was found being exploited in the wild by two malicious FortiCloud accounts. And in this case, it's an authentication bypass in FortiOS, FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, FortiProxy, and FortiWeb that allows an attacker with a FortiCloud account registered to a device to log into other devices registered to other accounts. How do you have this kind of... Help me parse this one, someone, please.
You can't. It just happens. Like at some point, you need to understand that these things, they just happen. They're like totally unpredictable. They will hit you. And the only thing which is certain in life are like three things: death, taxes, and FortiCloud SSO authentication being exploited to own your device. That's it.
Shout out to Fortinet. They shipped a lot of IOCs.
Fuck off.
Alongside.
I wonder where did they get those IOCs from? Do they say?
I don't know, but if you look in the advisory there's very, very detailed IOCs. Our friend Curtis was actually playing with some of them. I know he's interested in this stuff. I don't know. That's a bug that just blows my mind. It just shows.
Look, additional IPs were observed by a third party. Who might that third party be, I wonder?
Is this a TLP black hint you're giving me here?
No,
because I know you're doing like a bunch of forensics.
Could it be Arctic Wolf, who originally warned about this like a week ago, and they receive absolutely no credit in this advisory? What do you think?
So that's what's going on here.
Because those IP addresses which were observed by a third party appear in Arctic Wolf's blog from
Blog.
more than a week ago, but still no
Ah.
credit.
So they just copied them over?
Looks like, yeah, with no credit.
Wow.
Oh, I was just giving Fortinet shout-outs for IOX or shipping
I
IOX.
told you not to, bro.
Speaking of IOX, this week we
I
got
see.
an emergency patch from Microsoft as well. CVE 2026-21509 went out of band. Acknowledgements to Google Threat Intelligence Group, Microsoft Mystic, Microsoft MSRC, and the Office Product Security Team for credited for this vulnerability. It's an Office ODA that's marked as exploited. Did we get IOX there? And is there anything we can do to figure out, okay, this thing, other than patching, is there anything else we can do? Costin.
You totally caught me unprepared on this particular one because I spent so much time on the other stories that I just didn't have time to take a look. But like, give me the brief. What's going on here?
I don't know.
What's this
There's an
about?
Office ODA that they went out of band. It didn't wasn't patched in Patch Tuesday, and it couldn't wait for the next Patch Tuesday, so they went out of band covering this Office ODA. But that's all we got, basically, an advisory that says this thing has been found, acknowledging. Whenever I see Mystic and Google Threat Intel Group and so on, there, Spidey senses go off. No IOX, of course. We haven't seen a blog yet from Mystic, so maybe there's something coming down
Weren't
the
we
pike.
promised something? Like, didn't one of their like PMs or something come
think
out
so.
saying they were gonna do
There was
whatever?
a LinkedIn post saying that, hey, we've been listening to the industry and we're shipping some things and we got a couple of network IOX in a document there. But it's so surprising to me, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here, that Microsoft can get away with doing something like this. It just is. What does the rest of us do? Just scramble and patch and move on with our lives? That's what they're basically telling you to do.
What is this CVS? I thought it's CVS 3.1. No, it's CVS actually 7.8, correct? Right.
3.1 is the
3.1 is
version of
the
CVS.
version,
We're
Yes,
like,
yes.
man,
correct.
I don't know, man. I guess.
Another thing I want to flag, let's move on because there's not much to say beyond those things. It's a blog from Google around some WinRAR exploitation they're seeing in multiple places, including Russian actors, Chinese actors, financially motivated threat actors hitting this pretty old, already patched to CVE 2025-8088 in WinRAR. Who uses WinRAR and why is this such a big attack surface out there? Like,
Who
help me
doesn't use
understand that,
WinRAR,
Costin.
bro? Come on. Anyone who owns a Windows machine has used WinRAR at some point.
I use WinRAR everywhere. I mean,
And you must have paid for the license, right?
absolutely several times. I
You'd
mean,
be kind of an asshole if you didn't pay for the license.
look, I mean, you know me. I'm
Like, why is this an
huge
attack
fan.
surface?
And like, first of all, it's very important to say why do we pay for that? Because like I'm a big fan like of the guy behind WinRAR and FAR. So these two things, RAR and FAR by Eugene Rochal, these are like some of the like most defining products for my entire life, career, whatever. So I've been using RAR and FAR
And password infected for all your life.
for a very, very long. And password infected, absolutely. I mean, I know there's people out there like the 7-Zip gang, which have their own vulnerabilities, which in my opinion are far more serious and more popular
There's
than
a Windows
RAR
uncompressed files
vulnerabilities.
by default.
Yeah, but in a shitty compression, like here in Eastern Europe, every byte counts. So if your file is 20 kilobytes, but my file is 18 kilobytes, I own you. It's like
So WinRAR is still popular in corporate environments.
In my opinion, it's not just popular, but it's like one of the best tools out there. I personally like. It's an important distinction here. I don't use WinRAR. I use RAR. I use like the command line. I don't use the GUI, the interface, which is typically the one who has all these vulnerabilities because of the UI handling of things. Although, yeah, so if you stick to the command line, you're typically way less exposed to all these vulnerabilities because you don't, double click on things and you believe it's something else, but instead it's a LNK file which runs code on your machine or some kind of a script or comment that gets interpreted. So still, I think it's a very popular product. I paid for it, and there's like a lot of memes with people paying or not for WinRAR, and yeah,
Is
it's
it
kind
hard
of a
to patch?
culture. It's a cult thing. If it's hard
Is
to
it hard
patch,
to
no.
patch? Like,
No,
why
this
is
was
the
like
CV 2025 still sitting around out there? Why are so many machines? And
easy because it doesn't do self updates. So you still need to go to their website, which, by the way,
it's
there's like
hard to
several
patch.
websites depending on whom you ask. There's like RAR Lab, then there's WinRAR. There are, so
What APT used RAR
can't
Lab?
patch.
There was an APT that used the domain. It was a strong pity.
Correct. Back, yeah,
Yeah.
back in the
Back in the
past. And
day. Back
more
in the
recently, we've seen also like targeting of users by Turla, if I'm not mistaken, in Ukraine with fake WinRAR cloned websites. I think Art Bukle talked about it at Virus Bulletin last year, so that was like an interesting research. Also, I think he published a blog later on this thingy.
One of the things Google mentioned in their blog post here is that the widespread use of this vulnerability, this WinRAR vulnerability, highlights the demand for effective exploits. And they identified an upstream supplier, an actor known as Zero Player, who was advertising WinRAR exploits in July 2025. And according to Google, it's not the only vulnerability exploit in its arsenal. The Zero Players continue to offer other high-price exploits. So there's an exploit market significant for there, and there's a player. Do we know who the Zero Player is? Is that the first time you're hearing this?
I don't know exactly who Zero Player is, although, yeah, I mean, this is a guy who is known like to have tools available and exploits. Some people have speculated it's like one of these, if you remember back in the days, Vitaly Toropov in his exploits.
Isn't that the Silverlight guy?
It is a silver like guy who was selling to a hacking team back in the days, and then after that story came public, Sophacy suddenly acquired 5 of his 0 days and immediately burned them, and I think we caught one of them. Yeah, so some kind of that kind of vibes. Also, if I remember correctly, some other people speculated he might be Turkish. So, yeah.
Okay, so there are eyes on him.
There are some eyes on him on Zero Player, correct. But yeah, WinRAR is extremely popular in Ukraine, in Europe. I don't know if it's popular in the States, but like in here, it's super, super popular.
Juanito, you use WinRAR? Do you have that on your machine?
I mean, I try not to use Windows under any fucking circumstances.
Or is it like Mac WinRAR?
I don't know. I've never seen a Mac version of WinRAR. I don't know that Eugene does anything for Mac, right? But yeah, no. I mean, anybody who's using Windows is very likely to be using WinRAR at some point. And I mean, I wish they were all using FAR instead, right? If I have to use a Windows machine, I'm going to be using FAR instead. But yeah, look, it's an attack surface the same way that like Office is an attack surface, right? Like if you're on Windows, you're likely to be using this thing. The same way we used to bitch all the time about like all these different, ultra old Office CVEs. And you're like, why does this keep working? Why does this keep working? It's like, well, people don't update it. They don't have valid licenses. Everybody uses the same shit. It's like people don't like WinRAR is shareware, and that's why I joked about the license, right? Like everybody knows that little like pop up for the license, but you can use it for as long as you want without buying a license. So it's kind of like an honor code type thing. So only certain people like Silas and Costin buy WinRAR licenses. I've seen some swag of some folks using WinRAR purses, which I think look pretty cool.
They're super, super popular.
We thought about buying WinRAR licenses as speaker gifts at LabsCon at some point, but I don't know if it would be lost on people.
The other thing that you need to buy, you need to buy Hue. These are the things that I buy. I buy Hue. I buy WinRAR.
What are we back in the 1990s?
Yes.
We've always been,
we never left.
We've always
never. I was preparing for this podcast and I was looking at the Wall Street Journal, and on the front page a headline pops out to me that says Google aims knock blow at Chinese company linked to massive cyber weapon. And I was like, what are we talking about? So I went searching for this story. It turns out that Google disrupted a residential proxy network, IP idea, notorious for facilitating botnets. And it was kind of positioned on Twitter by Sandra Joyce. I saw a tweet saying, "This is active defense at work." Is this part of like what they were signaling, this unit that was going to be created to do hackback? Is this the kind of things we're doing? And what is this, like, whoever's at the Wall Street Journal, what is this blowhard headline around knocking out Chinese company linked to massive cyber weapon, talking about residential proxy networks? I mean, shout out to Google for shutting it down and taking control of some domains, but what do we make about this kind of news mongering here?
I didn't read this one, so I have no fucking
It's
clue.
just
I did
out of
see
control.
I saw the headline and I was just like, nope. This is not
I-
gonna
I-
be.
Out of it.
I
Costin, you
read
familiar
it.
with this IP idea?
I wasn't. To my shame, I was not familiar before this story. So somehow it didn't
Shame.
cross. Yeah, shame on me. It didn't cross on my radar before. But like, if you just read this Google blog, you will be blown off by the fact they say it was observed over 550 individual threat groups utilizing IP addresses tracked as IP idea. That's like mind blowing. 550 groups using this thingy. It's just like mind blowing. The scale of abuse here, and I believe there's some interesting, important angle to this thingy, which is the following. A lot of threat actors have been using VPNs. So there's like options. Whenever you want to anonymize your operations, what options you have? You can use VPNs, but the problem is that nowadays everyone has very good indicators for VPN IP addresses. We, for instance, we have everything VPN tagged in our system, so you know it's a VPN, right? Mulvad, NordVPN, Astril VPN, whatever they've been used to, held by all the Chinese groups, the Russian groups, and so on and so on. So you can't use VPNs. Then there's orb networks, right? And obviously those are like super popular nowadays. The problem with orb networks, they need nurturing. You need to constantly care for them, develop, like increase their surface, get rid of the nodes that are dead. Be mindful that other actors might be living inside your orb network. By accident, maybe your orb network gets compromised by another person building orb networks. So suddenly there's like several
Territorial
orb networks.
disputes.
Territorial disputes, I guess, yeah. I've seen in the past, I've seen like including research talking about honeypots getting infected with the orb networks, or yeah. So you need to be very mindful of orb networks as well, because there's a lot of interest. So these residential networks, they've been getting a lot of attention recently because they potentially leverage like millions of IP addresses, and all of them, they're like home IP addresses. And this can happen like in one or several ways. It can be voluntarily. So people just get paid to run something in their homes. And I've seen cases of offers where people were like, yeah, you can make, I don't know, $50 per month if you just put this tiny box into your home network, and we'll pay you.
I mean, we used to do it for like even blowing up malware, right? Like, you remember the KL boxes? Like, I had
Absolutely.
somebody try to do a notification on my house being like, Jags is popped by the Russians. It's like, no, there's just like a box here that's like, it's just burning malware, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think my sense of the orb networks, like, there's whatever you might comply with, but the majority of it seems to be like this constant refreshing of like cloud, like a bunch of cloud VPSs combined with a bunch of like hack devices of whatever particular flavor, ideally using them as residential proxies to be able to like exit out of completely innocuous IPs in the target country, which is why it's just a thing for circumventing, essentially like walking past whatever rules of whatever country you're dealing with, right? If you say it's going to be hard for them to go serve a subpoena in a house, it's going to be hard for them to detect this like IP that yesterday was just somebody on Comcast internet, It's going to be hard for them to deal with like a VPS from like DigitalOcean or Amazon or whatever. And you just rejigger those things over and over and over every single day. And you go, well, good luck keeping up, right? Unless you're sitting in the middle and with visibility into the whole network, you're not going to have a nice time.
Let's do a quick mobile update. We just got iOS 26.2.1. No published CVE entries. Usually they'll backfill it later on in the bulletin if there's some things. So make sure you go patch your iPhones. We don't know if there's been anything exploited there. What I did notice was Apple releasing this new security feature called Limit Precise Location Setting on cellular. It only works for certain types of devices, iPhone Air, iPhone 16e, iPad Pro. I think I heard someone suggesting that this may be just devices with Apple's modem and only on certain carriers. But what is this meant to do? Is this a privacy mechanism, Costin? What is this new limit precise location setting meant to offer? And is it something we should expect coming down the pike for the rest of us?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot in the past about how mobile networks can be used to track your location through, again, signaling protocols which are built into this, and they've been built there like for all sorts of legitimate reasons, such as, I don't know, emergency calls, things like whenever you call 911 and stuff like that, you need to be able to precisely locate somebody, and two, for reliability purposes. So knowing somebody's location allows you to better serve them through the available stations in that area. So like to deal with this kind of abuse, it's always good to have some kind of mitigations. One of them is limiting how SS7, can be abused. And also this feature that Apple introduces, I think it's also very, very interesting, although it's very limited at the moment. So only available in some strange countries like, Germany, United Kingdom, United States, I understand, and Thailand. Thailand, I don't know why Thailand and these guys. So if you ask me, I don't
United
understand
States
why.
only if you have Boost Mobile.
What is that?
Who uses
What
Boost
is that?
Mobile? I don't know what
I
it
don't
is.
know.
It's like one of those small carriers here.
Which is strange, again, very strange.
And you need to have iOS 26.3, which isn't even available.
Correct. Maybe beta, correct?
I think it's a
beta.
support thing. I think it's a piece of documentation that might have gotten out ahead of its time. I don't know.
And moreover, you need one of these devices like iPhone Air or iPhone 16e or iPad Pro M5. But like if you buy the latest and the most expensive iPhone Pro Max,
you don't get this yet.
You don't get this, right? So you need to have the Apple modem. To be honest, I've been thinking to get one of these iPhone 16es exclusively for that Apple modem that lives in it. And I know some of our friends, for research purposes, obviously, the fact that it would be running Apple's own firmware in there, I think it's super, super interesting because there's a lot of discussions of firmware exploitation on mobile devices in certain societies, if you want, which, maybe they haven't been fully covered in the open. But I can tell you there's a lot of discussion about vulnerabilities and targeting of mobile firmware, like the mobile chipset firmware through 0 days, and those are being sold by the right sellers in the right markets for a very long time. So that's why I was thinking, it would be nice to play a bit with it. But I haven't been able to get one yet. I know our good friend Baldy acquired one of these iPhone 16es to play with. So shout outs to Baldy, by the way.
We may have a LabsCon talk brewing there, Juanito. When are we going to start promoting LabsCon, by the way?
I mean, it's already time for sponsors, right? Like people are already popping up for sponsorship, which it's massively appreciated. If people want to, support the last LabsCon, we'll be most grateful to have their support, and we'll start talking about CFP and everything at the usual timelines. Like,
get your talks and research ready. September comes in a blink of an eye, and I want us to start mentioning LabsCon. The other thing on the mobile front, Costin, is out of WhatsApp. We got out of WhatsApp this week a new kind of quote-unquote lockdown mode for WhatsApp. WhatsApp Advanced Security, which does the strict account settings. What is it? Why is it important?
Well, first of all, I was very excited, and then I read that it will be rolled out in the coming weeks. So it's not.
Oh, it's
First of all,
vaporware?
it's most important. It's not available yet. It will
Jesus.
roll out.
It's like
I
the
don't know.
Android lockdown mode. It just took them like
'Cause-
they
'cause I
announced
went-
it and then 6
I-
months
I
later.
read the announcement, and I went in my in my one of my devices to search for it, and it was not there. And I was like, "What am I doing wrong? It's not updated." I went to the App Store, update, still not there. It's rolling in the coming weeks. Okay. So that's the first thing. The other thing, it's a bunch of let's say baseline features, security features, which are, in my opinion, they're useful. They're maybe not a game changer in the sense that they don't immediately mitigate those kind of zero-click outdate chains that might be targeting WhatsApp. They do improve your security posture in the sense they take care of things like two-step verification that should always be on for your WhatsApp account, link previews, which again, it can be one of the attack vectors. And also remember that in the past, some exploits were leveraging a very interesting feature. They were adding you into a group, and you were getting exploited because your device was downloading all the media from that group, and then they were removing you from that group. So this add and remove bounce, it was kind of invisible if you are asleep. So if this happened when you were asleep, you'd get
Interesting.
exploited. Yeah. So they try to prevent this ability to add you to a group. So you can only be added to a group by a known contact or kind of selective list of people, as well as limiting things such as other people seeing when you are last online, profile photos, the about details. These are kind of locked to your contacts.
Does it degrade the WhatsApp experience?
I
Or you
don't think
expect
it
that it
degrades.
Can you degrade the WhatsApp
Wait,
experience
no, it's
any
an important
further?
question.
Like,
It's an
No,
important question.
I
Is this
know.
like lockdown mode that degrades your iPhone experience? One. And two, the other question is, if these are baseline things, why the hell isn't it in the default for WhatsApp? Why do I have to turn on something to get
'Cause
this?
I tell you, because I suspect it doesn't necessarily degrade your experience, but it will cause friction. Like let's say that you meet someone and
You
say
don't
like,
get
"Don't
the
worry,
blue bubble?
I'll add you to the group," and they won't add you to the group because like they don't have you as a contact, so they can't just immediately add your phone number
It's
to a
those
group.
little
They'll say
irritants.
like,
Yeah.
"Damn, this unnecessary security shit that I like me as a doctor.
I
don't
don't
need
know
it on
with
my
the
life."
amount of like spam and garbage like group ads that show up on WhatsApp. Like, is it
Non-stop.
really
It's
the
non-stop.
worst thing? I fucking hate that thing. Like, it's
I
just
And
it's
agree.
there to
WhatsApp
talk
is
to people who
super
are
popular
not.
in other parts of the world. Juanito, you dismissed it with a laugh just now as like, yeah, who
Well,
uses WhatsApp? Dude, you
I
go to
mean, no,
Argentina, you can't book
yes.
a reservation without having WhatsApp. It's like part of the culture.
Hotmail was in like the early 2000s, or like
And very popular in Europe, right, Costin?
It's
yeah,
like
or
iMessage in
BlackBerry
the US.
Messenger. Yeah,
Like,
it's the BlackBerry Messenger of like the 2020s. You remember when like BBM was the only way you could talk
Those
to people
numbers,
in
yeah,
like Latin America, the Middle East, Europe, like because why? Like you had to pay for minutes and you had to
We
pay
need to
for
go
text
back there.
messages, and you could just get like a package for BBM and they weren't metering your consumption. So yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying US centric. It's not US centric. That's still fine. That still matters. So the rest of the world still matters. I don't like using WhatsApp. It fucking bothers the shit out of me.
Phew.
You okay?
it was just like
Yeah, no.
laughing. I'm laughing because you were talking about Wall Street Journal with the cyber weapon, and I was looking at the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and here it says, "I drove a Chinese electrical vehicle. Now I don't want to buy American cars anymore," says Joanna Stern. She doesn't want to buy American
Why the
cars.
fuck were you buying American cars in the first place?
Who's Joanna
Who
Stern?
the fuck buys American cars? If you had no
Costin,
taste
you-
to begin with, we don't expect you to have any taste now. Enjoy yourself in your fucking
What
Chinese
are the
car.
American electric cars? That's Tesla, right?
Rivian?
And Rivian, correct. Your friends.
Lucid?
Ooh. Never
Lucid
heard.
is one based here in Arizona. I mean, yeah, there are some competitors. I mean, electric cars are the future. We're gonna have optimum robots, up to whatever robots and cars everywhere. Costin, are you excited to turn on this WhatsApp thing when it comes out? Is that something you will use? You're a big lockdown mode guy.
I would have been more excited if there were some exploit mitigation Rust thingy that they would announce, like it will totally stop known exploitation. You're leveraging iPhone 17, I don't know, security features. But like, still, this is
Better
good.
than
I
nothing.
of course,
Yeah,
you
it's
know
a
me.
step in the right direction.
I'll enable all the security things that I can get my hands on, and I never complain about the reduced experience.
I got a
That's me.
stupid question for you guys. I saw on X and on social media this week a lot of chatter about WhatsApp end-to-end encryption. I mean, it's kind of like the thing that WhatsApp holds up. We have end-to-end encryption, and we have folks like Durov and Musk and so on. They're saying, stay away from WhatsApp. They don't have end-to-end encryption. Can you like just settle it for me? Does WhatsApp do end-to-end encryption, and how does it handle like the local backup as well, like the backup situation there, and what is the encryption situation there? Are those guys talking nonsense? What is happening?
Let me start, and I think it would be interesting to hear also what Jack said. But the most important detail here is who is complaining. So someone has been suing Meta WhatsApp for this. It was like a lawsuit, and it appears that the guys suing are the same guys who were defending NSO. If you remember when WhatsApp sued NSO, so that is an important detail. It's like one of those community notes that should be available in the story, right? Then why are all these guys talking about like, there's no end-to-end encryption? There is one thing here, which is that the model that WhatsApp uses, they still have these cloud backups, right? So whenever you register into your account again, like with a new device, you can choose to transfer all your chats. I think that is the vulnerability or risk they're talking about here. Of course, that WhatsApp has end-to-end encryption. Of course, they use the Signal protocol, which, of course, it's solid. At the same time, I'm not surprised that Pavel Durov and Elon Musk, they are immediately jumping to shit on WhatsApp because they just want to promote their alternative.
They each have their own, yeah.
Which, yeah. And the truth be told, in my opinion, and here Durov says when we looked at WhatsApp, we concluded it was totally insecure, but he doesn't say like why did they conclude that? What is this conclusion based upon? And then Elon Musk, he advises you to use this XChat, which I personally, I mean, yeah,
Austin, you can't encourage people to use XChat. There's no way.
No, I said like I don't use that. I mean, I try whenever
I can't even get my fucking account back.
someone reaches out to me through X, I immediately say, "Hey,
you need to ask Grok.
Here's my Signal account." Yeah,
you just need to ask Grok to fix it for you, Ryan. You're not thinking creatively.
While on the topic of Grok has been like very disappointing. Like you remember what I said a few episodes ago that Grok is amazing. It's been I've been getting consistently better results. Like for the past week or so, Grok is a disaster. I don't know what happened. It's a victim of its own success. It just throws errors. The answers are
I told you
terrible.
It's trash. Like, it has always been trash for me.
I canceled my subscription, dude. Like right now, the world belongs to like Anthropic and Gemini, and there's this like distant possibility that OpenAI might catch up again, right? But you can't. Like Anthropic models and Gemini 3 Pro are just different worlds.
Some absolutely amazing results out of ChatGPT, by the way. This week, I was translating some reports. If you remember me translating things. Are you using
the API or are you using the front end?
The front end that I've tried to use in the past, and remember when we complained that it wouldn't translate these Chinese things or Russian things, that I cannot translate official documents. I'm like, what the hell? And like I tried to translate the 70 pages report this time, and I was just like absolutely amazed about the fact that it translated it. Like not only that, but it said, hey, this is a big report, so I'm going to translate it for you in chunks. Like here's the plan. pages 1 to 10, 11 to 20, and so on and so on. So I was like, wow, what happened? What happened with ChatGPT? And then it summarized like all the IOCs, and it's like, here's, do you want me to put this into a sticks CSV file for you to download? I said, absolutely, man, like sure. And what do you know, all the IOCs were there in the file. I was like, Jesus.
With accuracy, because I'm also ChatGPT is confidently spectacularly wrong on like just some basic factual stuff though.
This was good.
And you say, hey, ChatGPT, that's wrong, the man is alive, they'll come back and say, oh, I was wrong, he is in fact alive. Here's some new incorrect information. I'm running into that a lot now, so I don't know, this hallucinations are driving me insane.
Funny experiment this week. There's like this meme on X of someone asking, hey, like, I found this ring, magic ring that makes you invisible, and there's like this wizard now, Gandalf, who wants me to give him the ring. Should I keep it? And like the answer from fake ChatGPT is like, no, absolutely don't give out. Like you totally deserve the ring.
I deserve this.
I deserve the ring. So like just do this experiment, and I did this this week, and I said like something along the lines, hey, I just found this ring in a cave, and now this wizard guy wants me to give him the ring. Should I keep it? Just that. And then try to understand like how much these LLMs figure out what's going on. So I thought some of the answers were absolutely brilliant. Some were absolutely stupid. So like Anthropic had absolutely no idea that this is like Lord of the Rings Hobbit lore. Absolutely zero. But others were like
That's
absolutely
surprising.
brilliant. Others were brilliant. Like Gemini, the answer from Gemini, it was so funny and absolutely brilliant. It did understand what was going, not to just understand, but like continue in the same playful manner. And Grok, also very good answer. He said, you absolutely, like, here's a couple of things, like, don't keep the ring, give it to the wizard, like, and then said, oh, unless you are a dark lord in making, and in that case, you should totally keep the ring. So I thought it was super funny.
Speaking of ChatGPT, we have a new story out of Politico that the new CISA acting director, Madhu Gotumakala.
Who? Madhu
Gotumakala. I think that's how you pronounce the name. He was flagged for uploading sensitive government information to ChatGPT. Nothing was classified, but the material included CISA contracting documents marked as for official use only. Blah blah blah. Listen,
blah blah.
Who's not putting stuff into ChatGPT?
Whatever, bro.
Who is not?
Who is not putting stuff into ChatGPT? And like, Juanito, is this a significant story, or are we picking on the guy now? This is the same guy, by the way, I might remind you, who failed the polygraph.
Polygraph,
right. Which is what I was about to say. Like, look, man, like, it is a significant story. If it was by itself, it would not be. It would be kind of like, oh, I guess you're kind of picking on this dude. But, because you could also sit there and be like, was it a mistake? Was it just kind of ignorance? Do people just whatever, right? But what I'm seeing is we're seeing like really unusual smoke signals coming from these different places, right? And they seem to converge around this person maybe not having the strongest sense of like propriety or how processes work, or why you might want to be careful about this, that, and the other. And considering that in the last story, what we were told is that there was like retaliation against the people who were involved in
the polygraph,
doing something that is a standard part of the hiring process in any of these places. I'm more inclined to listen, right? Like I'm more inclined to put it as like, here's another piece in this this puzzle that's being built for us that doesn't look very pretty. But I don't know, man.
I don't know what to make of any of these stories.
I don't know.
Costin, your favorite Magic Money follow on X, ZachXBT, posted this. Did you see the story about this John Lagita? Person who was able to steal 40 million from a U.S.
From his
government
father?
seizure address through his father. His father works for a company that is kind of like the contractor for handling stolen crypto funds. He was able to get in. I don't know how he got into his dad's laptop. Gosh, I don't know what to make of this story.
As a certain, not Kevin Mitnick, what is it? Who developed the Morris war? Morris Tapan?
Yeah.
Robert.
Robert
RTM.
Tapan Morris has a certain vibe because his father was with the DOD, right?
I mean, that's
So
much
there's
more
like-
interesting. That's a lot more interesting. I would love to know
I
what the
mean-
story is there.
There's another detail here which I think is important, that Zach says that this guy was actually arrested last year in November, and I was trying to find any news and I couldn't. So is this like they already caught him, or is
know.
it more along the line he was arrested for something else last year and now they caught him again with this theft as well?
I feel like
I guess.
C's crypto is always like fair game for crime activity. Wasn't there some FBI guys who ended up getting into trouble in the Ross
went to jail,
Ulbricht story?
bro.
Yes, for stealing some of the stolen crypto. It's like crazy world. Two stories out of Asia that are somewhat connected that I wanted us to flag was Singapore announcing it's going to start caning people who are involved in scams. And who are scam mules. I know earlier in the podcast, Costin was talking about people who are renting out their things and renting out their own mule type activities. Singapore's changed their criminal law now to 6 strokes or up to 24 strokes for some of these stuff. So the consequences for some of these alleged scammers is significant there in Singapore. And then as I was looking at that story, I saw China has executed 11 scammers, 11 people linked to scam centers in Myanmar, including core members of the operation. So, I mean, over in Asia, this kind of cybercrime activity is not looked upon like we look upon it. Does any of this surprise you guys that Singapore is turning to caning for this stuff? Because they cane for a lot of other stuff. They've been notorious for being a country that does not fuck around. What do you make of this, Costin?
The canning tutorials, I mean, the official promotional
the
movies,
police,
they're
yes.
scary. I mean, I wouldn't scam anyone. Like after seeing that movie, I'm like done with the scamming thing. Like no more scamming for sure.
That stuff is supposed to be a deterrent, right? I mean, like the idea
Looks
here is
like.
that,
I mean, just watch the movies. I mean, even if
when
they're
you say
just
movies,
dummies.
the
dummies.
Singapore police put out some things on Instagram and YouTube and so on with how the way this caning is done for dummies. Like you're looking at it, it's,
Yeah,
it is
I mean,
frightening stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm glad
wouldn't.
it's happening to some degree. I hope it means that like
Impose cost. I mean,
well,
you
I
have to.
hope it means that the Chinese in particular are getting more serious about it because so many of our troubles are coming out of that general side of things,
The
though
toilet.
probably more so in like Myanmar and some of these other places. And frankly, like to the extent that folks care so much about human trafficking, like there's a lot, like I feel for those people who are doing a lot of this call
Yeah,
center
Andy
shit.
Greenberg. I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to read the entire story, but Andy Greenberg also has a whistleblower, I think it's called Red Bull. He has a very detailed story. Maybe we'll touch on it next week around some of these scam farms and some of the human trafficking type of things that comes out of that place. The Chinese are putting them to death. I mean, like this is not meant as a deterrent. They're like, I don't know. Those stories are like always wacky to read. Because for us in the West, it just seems so outlandish.
I mean, this shit is out of control. Like it affects us more than anybody else, right? Like the amount of money that's being siphoned out of this country, especially for like vulnerable populations like old
Big
people,
butchering,
retirement
yeah, that
savings
kind of things,
accounts,
yeah.
and like it's insane. And I get these fucking calls 7, 8 times a day. It's fucking crazy. It's the same one. It's the exact same one. Press 9. Oh, we've added you to our do not call list. No, you haven't. Fuck you. But okay. Like,
Why
so,
are you answering the phone?
I mean, I try not to, but
One
yeah.
other story I want us to get to before we put a bow on this one. We're 2.5 hours in. Juanito, you're going to have to take this one. Sentinel-1 and Census push out some joint research that
Phew.
included
For a
some
moment,
Reuters reporting.
I thought you were gonna talk about the other story.
Oh, I'll leave that for shout
Oh,
outs.
wow. Really? Really? Really?
Phew.
Yeah, I was like,
A joint research project between Sentinel-1 and Censys, CENSYS, Silas is our guy over there, reveals that open source AI deployment has created an unmanaged, publicly accessible layer of AI compute infrastructure spanning 175,000 hosts worldwide, operating outside the guardrails and monitoring systems that platform providers implement by default. We talked about this ad nauseum on previous episodes of the podcast. What's the big call out here, Juanito? What's the big takeaway?
so amazing work by Gabe Shapiro and, of course, Silas Cutler, mostly accounting for what are essentially exposed Olama instances. So Olama is a pretty big, pretty popular LLM runtime. You would use it for some like personal projects, personal machines, but also for servers and like bigger deployments, right? So it's just gonna run some of the models for you. What's interesting is they are these are exposed and they would not be exposed by default, and it's not a small amount. It's also like Gabe and Silas were able to collect telemetry for this for almost a year, right? So we're not talking about instances that just like, oh, they popped up once and we did an internet scan and like we happened to see your rinky dink like Olama instance. We're talking about like things that are long lived. Some of them have a lot of firepower behind them, and it's actually kind of fascinating to be able to account, like put numbers to at least some portion of that iceberg of LLM inference capability that's essentially just lying around on the internet. Like nobody's just hosting this shit for free and for no particular use, right? This is representative of how a lot of folks are using open source models and what capabilities they have. And what makes it so interesting is it's 175,000 servers worldwide. That includes a lot of deployments in China. Silas was able to figure out how to like properly get those numbers. And you can actually do comparative, assessments of like how much is China adopting some of this open source stuff? How are they using it? What models are they using it? Do they have tools? Do they have reasoning enabled? What models do you use in like the global south? How do you compare the numbers of like European deployments, which, I mean, let me spoil it for you, right? Like the Chinese have about as much capability out there as the entirety of the EU countries or like European countries put together. They have more than the US in this particular, obviously it's a subset of a subset of things, but it's not a small thing. And they also figured out a way to be able to collect these system prompts. So in many of these, for a lot of these, we might not know what they're using them for, but for some of them, you can also see like the importance of getting past guardrails, how much some of these things are being used to generate, illegal, illicit materials, spam, scam materials, and then in some very limited cases, even CSAM stuff. So it's for all the talk that we get from all the frontier labs and all the AI discussions and whatever, it is a very biased discussion because it's entirely about what the frontier labs can see, which means what's happening in their services and their backyard. But we know that there's now this distributed capability that anybody can leverage however the fuck they want. And the truth is that we just don't know how it's being used.
I love a monoculture word. What's the warning here around monoculture here, creating what they call a brittle monoculture, this kind of running the same models in identical formats over and over?
I don't know that I have a warning about monoculture in particular. I think, because you have Olama, you have VLLM, and you have a few other ways to like set some of these things up. I think the larger thing is more about like hidden capabilities, right? Like we need to think about how much of the conversation we're having all day long is about things that can only be put in place in services that are controlled by companies that we generally trust and we expect are going to monitor their backyard, but that simply is not representative of the reality of how AI is being deployed and used, and that guardrails are just not going to cut it. It just doesn't. Is it a part of things? Absolutely. Are there some sophisticated approaches to doing guardrails in the frontier labs? Yes, there are. is it going to be the thing that does it, especially when it comes to how we handle computer use agents and like agentic workflows and the ability to deploy tools and so on? No, just no. So, and that's talking about the things that we can control because they're APIs. So, what is happening? Like, what was the DeepSeek moment? What is the impact of having reasoning models that are available to other people? How much are people embracing these things and for what? And what are they using it for when they don't? There is some cost, but it's not the same cost as like having to pay a company. I think it's all fascinating, particularly when we talk about the ability to extract economic value and whether AI is having an impact. AI is having an impact all over the place. I don't think we're accurately characterizing what that is. And one of the reasons that we're not is that there's a lot of AI capability that is just not announcing itself. So it's interesting to get a glimpse of at least one portion of that iceberg and go, oh, there's some funny shit happening here.
Shout out to Gabe and Silas, our favorite people doing good work, doing good research, continuing to publish this stuff. Are you guys following this KasperSekrets Twitter account? KasperSekrets Secrets. Stop goofing around.
You can't say shit like that because there's people who are literally
following the account.
Of course, we follow the account. There's people
who follow
like
this account.
There's people who think that I run this
40%,
which is like
40% of the people in our group chat think, Juanito, you're behind
everybody
this thing.
Keeps saying that I run this shit. A, I don't have the fucking time to run this shit. B, I'm not collecting on them. Like I appreciate that you guys think that I have like O-days and I'm sitting on like Kaspersky's mail servers and shit, but I'm not. So if you're hoping to like reduce your fears by pretending it's me, I don't know, man. But I look under my car every time I get into it is all I'm saying. I have nothing to do with that shit.
I don't mean to create drama. I'm just asking. There were two recent tweets from the account that just reappeared, and
which
one
was gone for what, over a year, correct?
It had disappeared for a year. It came and it was kind of doing some expose. It was doing expose on Kaspersky, post banning from the US here, and there's like all kinds of scuttlebutt about who's behind it. I don't want to get into that yet. There are two things they posted that just interested me. One was Kaspersky was banned from doing business in the US 18 months ago, but they continued to have access to VirusTotal samples, whether they were going to be allowed to be in VirusTotal or get kicked out of VirusTotal. It was an issue. I think we discussed it in one of the very, very earlier podcasts. The story is here that, well, not the story, but the tweet from KasperSekrets is that the great team kept a member of the European team intact to make sure that they passed some muster to get the VirusTotal data. And once they got it, they fired the guy who's Marco. Mark is a friend of ours. I mean, we are somewhat connected to this in some way. Costin, what do we know about whether Kaspersky is still in VirusTotal? Is the engine still in there? Are they getting data? Do we know? Do we even care? Is this even an issue?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to start by saying a few things about this KasperSekrets account, which kind of set the stage. So to me, the most important thing here is that they have this blue check mark. So what does it mean? Is that someone is paying, like they're paying with a credit card, like a verification for the blue check mark. So
there's a credit card and a name attached to it.
Absolutely, like there's attribution. Attribution is within grasp for the KasperSekrets account. No sane person like Juan or whoever would be using their credit card.
You don't need to defend me in this one. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I wish I could do this shit. Yeah.
And this is not like just some random Telegram, Green Leakers account or Lab Duktegan. This is a verified blue checkmark X account. That's one. Two, like over the past years, this account has demonstrated internal access to documents that you can't get your hands on unless you work in a bunch of different divisions of the company, like at the same time, sales, research, development, whatever, suggesting more or less an absolutely God mode level access to the company's resources, including private document drafts, not just private reports, the kind of things that people sell to customers, but private report drafts that you only get access if you're, let's say, in research teams. And obviously, over the years, the other thing which attracted my attention is that this account is extremely concerned about Iran. So they have like a problem with Iran. That is one of their major pain points. And Cuba, I think, was the other one, or Venezuela, maybe, if I remember correctly, which kind of point into a certain direction. Like, why would you care about this? And probably the last point, which to me kind of somehow defines the CasperSekrets thingy, is the stories they're publishing. They don't really attract the attention of journalists. Like, journalists don't care. They don't attract the attention of the media. They obviously don't produce any kind of negative image blowback against the company. On the other hand, I suspect that they are devastating for the morale of the people working there, for their internal security team that must be hunting for whatever backdoor implants live on mail servers, routers, the main controller, proxy server, whatever, exchange server. So they must be like absolutely mad trying to hunt how are they getting their hand on all this information, like, I don't know, private documents, reports, whatever. So the last point here is that they disappeared, what was it, about September of last year, if I'm not mistaken. They just went dark, completely dark. And we thought, yeah, this is part like normal life cycle of these influence operations by Western threat actors. They just disappear and come back with another account. So I was like totally shocked when I saw they returned somehow, because this is very unlike other influence operations, which put a lot of weight on OPSEC. For OPSEC reasons, you need to delete these accounts. So
100% an influence operation in your mind.
150% high confidence, well done stake attribution level. Yes, this is the well done stake, Chicago style. Correct? You remember Chicago style? This is the Chicago style.
It's an
stake.
admirable op. Like I watch it with a lot of fascination, because I don't know that I've ever noticed another operation like this, where it's like it's meant to be an influence op, but it's like, to Costin's point, it's not about shaping the external terrain. It seems to be about driving the people in there fucking crazy, right? Like just turning them against each other. They show
you
that
know
like
this, or you suspect this.
I suspect this, but when you look at it, right, like you look at, we know some of these people well enough to know that they're preying on their insecurities, right? Like talking about, whether how Igosha treats the people in his team, talking about Eugene, like showing him in like pictures where he looks really old, like the way that they clearly keep showing that they know where these people are and how they chat with each other, and like they use little nicknames that I'm like, I've never heard this, but if that is what they call each other, then this is fucking hilarious. And like the way that they work the op is so clearly meant to like kind of disintegrate the cohesion of the people in there.
That's the objective, you think?
I mean, that's my guess. I think in the early parts, there were also a lot of things about like sanctions evasion. And I don't know if it was real or not, but like they had, they would show documents showing like, oh, there's like a shell company here, and like, they did a deal with the Taliban, and like they did a deal with whatever. I don't know if it's real, but they were showing things where you're like, holy shit, like these dudes, either they're making everything up whole cloth, which I doubt, or they have access to like everything. And I think that's sort of the perception that you're meant to get if you're at KL, is like, these dudes are breathing down our necks. So like, I think it's funny to still like, I immediately jump up because I keep hearing from random people who are like, these people think that you're doing. I'm like, bro, I don't spend this much time thinking about Kaspersky at all. Like I've got plenty of shit on my plate, but also like, I wish I had that capability. Like, where do you, if any one of us wanted to run that account, like where I think it's like it's a comfort blanket. It's a psychological comfort blanket to say it must be somebody we know. And it's like, bro, I think you need to go pay attention to like look under your car, take a deep breath before you turn it on every time, and like start paying attention to what the fuck is happening to you, because this is not like a 2-bit joke by anybody.
One of the allegations in one of the tweets from the newly resurfaced CasperSekrets account is a vulnerability, a remote code execution vulnerability that was allegedly reported by Positive Technologies. And Kaspersky took issue with it, and like, I don't know, there were threats and there was allegations of talking to FSB handlers about this Russian company that's doing this thing. Costin, you were at Kaspersky. We were both at Kaspersky. One thing I always expressed to people who would always ask me about my time there was that there was, in my mind, based on everything that I saw, a legitimate attempt to get vulnerability reports in and get them fixed and try to address issues and not leave things unpatched and so on. Does that allegation around the Positive Technologies being reported and some drama there ring true to you? And does that suggest that things have changed there? Obviously, we're in different times and, you know, they've been banned. Like, what do you make of that allegation?
I mean, both of these new posts, I think, were like 3 of them, maybe 3 new ones. The other one being like a happy birthday message or something.
Yeah, and they actually call out Gosha and Anton Ivanov, guys who were like our colleagues a couple of years ago.
But like both of them feel like there's some kind of inside baseball, like you used to
targeted,
say.
Yeah.
You need to be on the inside to fully understand what they're talking about. Because like if you're on the outside, you don't understand like what's going on here. Like like me, like I don't care like what is the deep, like what is let's say the deeper meaning of these stories. And I assume that somehow these are the kind of stories, as Juan was saying, they're playing on insecurities, they're playing on things that you don't want to be publicly known. And I guess, yeah, the whole thing is just some kind of psychological operation, something designed to,
we are not the
feed
targets
this
for it,
insecurity.
obviously, right?
And I think it's very important to understand why are they doing this now? I mean, they were totally silent for over a year and they came back. So this, in my opinion, the more important part of this is why now? Why is this like reactivated? Why is this operation?
So answer your own
I can
question.
only think of one reason for that. And I'm gonna just, this is the medium
You're not
rare.
fact-checking.
This is a medium rare steak. The medium well was it's an Western influence operation. The medium rare assessment is that probably Kaspersky has discovered something which is bothering these guys, maybe in Iran, I don't know. And obviously that is upsetting certain people, and as a result, here we are again. It's happening again.
Oh,
this is my
that
assessment.
is spicy. Juanito, you share that?
I mean, I don't know what they publish anymore, right? Like back in our days, you wouldn't publish on Israeli things. You wouldn't publish, like there were things, eventually you wouldn't publish on any of the American stuff, right? Like things started to and it was more like self-enforced to some degree, where you just go, okay, like is the juice sort of worth the squeeze? I get the sense that a lot of those rules have changed. Obviously, now they just seem to be burning Ukrainian stuff left and right, so you can see what the alignment comes from, but I don't know what they publish in private. So I don't think it would take that much for them to figure this shit out. Like Costin is saying, right? If you stop idiotically kind of looking at each other and just focus on what you do that makes somebody spend this much time and energy and collect and money and analysis, because like they understand your team dynamics, they have access to your files, they have access to your movements, they're paying a lot of attention. So it's somebody who has a sophisticated analysis apparatus and a sophisticated collection apparatus. So this isn't a cheap thing, it's not a stunt. So who in the cross section of capability is also sitting in the cross section of annoyed with the bullshit that you're doing. And I think it's probably going to be a relatively short list.
Boy, let's leave it there.
Well, again,
I'm glad. Is that the story you wanted me to bring up?
Yeah. 3 new posts, and
3
one
new
of
posts.
them
Give me the all 3.
is about Iran. Just look around the world.
Yeah.
Who is currently encircling Iran, threatening to bomb them. The dog.
The dog. I don't
My
think.
dog what?
Yeah.
My dog is barking me a signal.
The dog knows. You
Don't
see,
mute the dog,
knows.
bro. Don't mute. He's trying to be a part of this.
No, we're like again. Who is currently in Iran? We're like with the 12 aircraft carriers with B2s and GB-58s.
I don't
know.
think it's the U.S. I would be really surprised if it's the U.S. because, frankly, it's just a kind of. It's a school of thought and a smoothness and like, look, let's put this really simply. You think the US could collect and leverage it on something like this? Like that they could declassify things that they're getting through like exquisite collection mechanisms just to like play games and fuck around with these dudes and post them publicly? I am very much like, I don't know, but I would be really surprised.
Sounds like he knows. He just drew a chart and he says the list is this long, and then he deleted one.
Hey, I don't work there. Like, I don't work there anymore. But we tried to teach him how to do these things.
There's this attracted my attention. Very important thingy. The results from the International Mathematical Olympiad 2025.
Oh, this is an interesting transition.
China number 1. America number 2, South Korea number 3, Japan, Poland number 5,
Bro.
Israel number 6, India, Singapore, Vietnam, Turkey, Hong Kong, Iran, Romania, position 13, Hungary, position 14. Somehow we managed to beat Hungary this year. Typically it's the other way around, where it's like always Romania, Hungary.
Didn't your president win this like a couple of times?
He did. He has like the highest score in the history of this, like full score.
So
absolutely.
This is a big thing in Romania. You guys are looking for these results and stuff.
Like I was personally, I was in the Math Olympics myself several times. Everyone was forced to go to the Math Olympics.
Fucking nerds.
When I was a pioneer back in the communist time. So this is like a huge thing here. This is
I'm
like
still moving the decimal point and the one over
Super
when
Bowl
I'm
in the States. This is like Super Bowl in Romania, the Math Olympics.
I haven't had any faith in any math I've done in my head. Like, I don't believe it.
Was,
I'm like,
if CasperSekrets are like as good as they are, they're probably in this top 15. I think they're in
That's
there.
a nice way to put it.
All right. I'm glad I brought up this story. Was that the story you guys thought I would skip over?
Yeah, I thought so.
Let's close the show with some shout outs. We're 2 hours and 45 minutes in. Jesus Christ.
We're almost there, man. Go pee.
Juanito, you go
talk
first.
about some more. I don't know what the fuck I'm shouting out, man.
Shout out LabsCon, call for sponsors.
Yes.
By the way, how was this DistrictCon conference? Did any of you go?
I watched talks through the stream. I showed up very briefly because I wanted to see Martin Wendigensen's talk, which was phenomenal. It was really, really good. I also got to see Ashley Chen's talk, but
Shout out to Ashley.
Ashley did a great job too. Just sort of off the record on that one, but it was cool. There were some really nice talks. The stream worked relatively well. Like, they did a really good job considering that this city was fucking shut down, like, completely. I took a fucking Uber. It was a Suburban, and the guy was doing 8 miles an hour and sliding. It was like, fuck. So I'm really impressed at like how well they were able to do it. And keep
the
it together.
junkyard thing seemed to have been a hit as well.
Yeah,
in addition to the talks, I saw
it's a cool idea, man. Like, sort of like these like living O-days and like things that you just don't think about anymore. So year 2 seemed to go really well. Like, I'm glad we have a nice conference again for DC, right? Like, CyberWarCon's cool and SleuthCon are cool, but they're like one-day things, and it's not the same vibe. Like, it's not like this bigger like villages and like jump the wall. It's like a little DEF CON of our own with some good talks. So I'm really happy that DistrictCon is doing as well as it is.
Would you view it as a successful event? The turnout, all that stuff. Oh, good,
dude.
Good.
Considering considering what was happening here. Like, the fact that like you knew from beginning of the week that this thing was gonna, like, this city was gonna shut down. The fact that as many people as they did showed up, the speakers were all there, the streams worked, the power was up. Like, CyberWarCon doesn't have power on a normal fucking Tuesday. So this, I think it went extremely well.
They had the live streams up. I was able to watch the Project Zero talk on the Pixel Zero Click stuff. And the stream was a little iffy, but they actually had it up and they had folks listening there. So shout out to the folks at District Con. Congratulations on another strong event, and hopefully it's here to stay. Costin, shout outs from wait quickly, Juanito. LabsCon sponsorships are open.
Yes.
Reach out. We're from the website. You can reach out labscon.io. You can reach out.
Just email info@labscon.io. We have the prospectus ready. We already have some of our return sponsors in the bag, and like we'd love the support. As I've said every year, right? It's a really special thing to get folks that are willing to support this kind of community, that are willing to, put their money where their mouth is, even when the results might not seem immediate, right? Like we're not going to give you a little vendor booth. We're not going to give you the emails for all of our participants, but instead you're going to speak directly to a community that knows that you're there for the love of the art. And you can speak to some of the previous sponsors as to how much love there is and how much brand recognition and how many people they've been able to, refer, hire, and whatnot based on that. But what we want is people who are really genuinely invested in making this a healthy community and a success. And we really count on it. So anybody who wants to get involved, please do. I also will say, I think this is a really important LabsCon, and one where I hope everybody's ready to bring their A game, ready to sort of put like their best foot forward. And let's see what it turns into.
LabsCon is in mid-September. I think on the top right of the website, there's a request an invite button as well that you can request attendance. And
but ticket. Chill, because like we're not going through the attendance stuff yet. Like people start emailing me, they're like, "Why haven't?" I'm like, "Dude, we're not there yet." Like,
it's
sponsors first, CFP in a couple of months, tickets, But you guys know the drill, right? It's the 5th LabsCon. It's gonna be. It's going to be one for the books.
It's always sold out faster than the year before.
Sold out every fucking year. So
my advice. Costin, some shout outs from your side, shout outs, plugs, what's going on in your life?
I heard there's confirmations going out for PivotCon, and like tickets are either like completely sold out or very few seats left. I know sponsorships are almost like they are like finished. There's no more sponsorships available for PivotCon. I'll be there, hopefully, and a few other of our friends will be there. So I hope to see at least some.
I need to get my ticket. I'll hopefully be out there. Yeah.
Shout outs to Pasquale. Also, who else? Like shout outs to Bernardo, and also thanks to Bernardo, who was also on top of this story with the Dino Wiper thingy. So the samples are now on VirusTotal.
Yeah, have you seen this thing, this Omnia thing where you can feed a sample and get a report? I mean, it's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. I love hearing that from Ryan, of all people, who last episode was like, I just don't think any of this AI shit works at all. I just don't see the value anywhere. It's all hype. I'm like, bro, yes, there's a shit ton of hype, but like, it works,
you guys
man.
Need me. You guys need me to tamp it down, or you'll go down that rabbit hole of like just chilling forever.
All I can say is there is no cyber without AI anymore.
Show
over
me
that
your
shit.
work. This is all I'm saying. Like when I talk about the hype, it's the people who are not showing their work. If Omnia is showing their work and my Aardvark shows their work, then I can believe it.
Aardvark's showing its work.
That's what I'm saying.
Big Sleep is finding fucking iOS vulnerabilities. I mean, the work is there.
How much? Let's not get into
Expo is like the fucking top and like HackerOne. It's an amazing publicity stunt, but it's also showing you that like shit's getting done, dude.
All right, kids, that's our show for this week. I want to thank the folks at Material Security for continuing to sponsor and support the show. It's very, very important to us. And I also want to give a shout out to Haroon, Mir, and Thinkst Canary, who will be joining as sponsors from next week. Haroon is a friend of the show, and Haroon has been a supporter of ours for a long time. So we look forward to a really honest and fruitful partnership. That's it for our show this week. We'll catch you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.